following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and a show that has finally commenced with fucking some shit up.
Yeah, way to wait until just as things are ending, Angela Kang.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. The dead are coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, an all Walking Dead universe podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
This is podcast episode number 273, and this week we're discussing episode 23 of Walking Dead's final season. Title of this episode is Family, and it's the penultimate episode. That's what I heard on Twitter last night 7,000 times. Penultimate. It was like hearing the word baloney enough times. It started to have no meaning to me. I'm like, penultimate? Is that a real word? It's real, right?
Mm-hmm.
These people on the Twitters have been waiting their whole lives to be able to use penultimate as many times as they could, and it was everywhere. They was all over the place. Anyway,
it's a really, really cool word to use.
And it was like you were saying, it's very apt.
It's apt.
It's perfect. It's the perfect time to use the word. So we're gonna discuss the penultimate episode, folks. That's what's happening. This is real. Okay, so quick thoughts on the episode. I think I went first last week, so why don't you go first? Let us know, just quick thoughts. What did you think overall of episode 23?
Well, let's see. Episode 23, which, by the way, is the penultimate episode. I like this episode. I again, there was a good pacing to it. It was had a nice build up. The gunfight in the railway station, whatever that building is now, I thought was a little but other than that, I thought there was a lot of great moments in it. With we got a lot more variants, and we got the whole Aaron and Lydia storyline about out in the horde, and of course poor Jerry and all that stuff. So I think there were a lot of great suspense moments. Not as many death moments as I was hoping for. But again, Angela, don't let me down, girl. We still got one to go, although now it could be, like we were saying last week, if like 5 people died this week, it's going to be like too much, right? It's going to almost like cheapen all of it because it's so much in one fell swoop. And like you said, it's like they should have
sprinkled them in a little better.
Yeah, they should have called the herd a little bit earlier than the last moment. And
seriously.
And like we were just talking about before we started recording, sadly I'm starting to get this little itching in my brain that they're not going to kill anybody next week.
Here's what you should do is you should now make your brain think they're not going to kill anybody, so that if like 3 people die in the next episode, then you'll be surprised.
Okay. Well, I'm operating under the assumption that all of them have spin-off shows that just have not been yet announced. So
yeah, why not?
Yeah,
might as well.
What'd you think?
I really liked this episode a lot more than the last 2 because I thought there were some more stakes. Again, not as many deaths as we would be hoping for.
Yes.
It's almost like they came right up to the edge of the cliff of death, and then they were just like, No, we're going to turn around and go back. That's fine. Good. We're not going to jump off this cliff. There were definitely some very intense moments. Lydia, Judith, Jerry stepping out of that RV. I'm like, no. So there were some moments that gave me like the pit in the stomach. Judith a little less so. I'm not sure about her. Her plot armor might be a little thick, but definitely Lydia, Jerry. Some of the other moments with other people that are in peril, I felt a little tense. I agree. I'd say the little shootout at the OK Corral / Union Station was a little contrived, a little bit, that was probably the weakest part of the episode was that whole setup. But I feel like there was so much action surrounding everything else and it was just really well done, that I forgave it. You know, they had to sort of have a they needed to have a moment where Pamela does something terrible to make everybody do like a, you know, she and turn everyone against her.
Right.
You know, so that this may be the thing that turns the whole town against her, and the military against her, and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So they had to sort of set something like that up. I get it. It was just as a little convenient in a lot of ways, but everything else, so good, so tense, lots of emotion. I mistakenly watched it for the first time on my treadmill and was crying on my treadmill. You know, there were a couple of really good emotionally packed lines. Aaron had some good stuff. Ezekiel had some great stuff. Yeah.
Hey, anytime there's an episode where you have Daryl going, "We gotta go," it's,
yeah,
you know, you got like emotional pay dirt. Okay.
Exactly. And he didn't even really have a lot of the emotional moments or any impact on the episode. I really felt like, you know, Aaron and Lydia and Ezekiel and Negan's moment really were, to me, like the emotional high points of the whole episode, and there was so much really good action that was sort of, you know, packed in around that. It just was really great. I am so excited for next week, and I am also nervous, but not super nervous. I don't know. It's a weird feeling going into next week. But let's move on and let's talk about this episode, and then when we're finished, we can talk about how we're feeling going into next week. Before we get into our details that, you know, struck us one way or another for this episode, let's talk about the episode description. Steve, that's your little baby, so why don't you go ahead and...
Well, alrighty. Well, and just a reminder that this is the penultimate episode description.
Yeah, it is. The penultimate Walking Dead episode description.
That's right. Original, you know, main series.
Yeah, mothership,
episode description. So yes. So yeah, let's get into it. And this week's episode is being brought to you by Old School Dale's Holistic Rest and Recreation RV. Has this modern zombie world got you down? Are you tired of wearing your guts on your sleeve? Does it feel like your friends and loved ones are being torn away from you by some mindless zombies? Wouldn't it be great if you could just find some place to get away from the group and just rest for a while? Well, now you can with Old School Dale's Holistic Rest and Recreation RV. We're located right next to the Horde on the main road. Open 24 hours, our unlocked doors are ready to let you in. And once you're inside, you'll be in a safe space, free from the problems of the outside world. A place where you are loved. A place where we will always give you a hand. Oh, Dad really smarts! But there's a really good chance that hand was already yours. So stop in at Old School Dale's Holistic Rest and Recreation RV and let the disarming begin. See you on the other side. Did you see what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Okay. Because, you know, again, we gotta let the disarming begin. So.
Oh, disarming. Oh, I get it.
The only thing I did freeze frame the scenes in the RV. I was really looking to see if there was a copy of A Farewell to Arms in the background somewhere. I was just like, please, Angela, throw that gag in. Why not, right? You know,
oh my God!
Just an old school hardcover of Hemingway, right? It would have been so perfect. You know.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk more when we get to Lydia. I've got some thoughts and some things
thoughts?
that I have thoughts and emotions. But yeah. So.
All right. Well, continuing on. Again, this is the episode in question is 1123, entitled Family. And the description is as follows. The Alexandrians and the prisoners head back to the Commonwealth to confront Pamela Milton. Meanwhile, a swarm approaches the city. And that is the episode description. Just basically screw Eugene because we don't need to talk about him.
Well, he was such a small part of the episode.
He really was.
It was tiny. It's tiny.
Was.
It's like a little, yeah. All right. So writers and director for this episode
Yes.
Couple of names we've seen before, and a couple that look pretty either new or not as common.
Yeah, well, one definitely.
Yeah.
And again, I'd like to point out that this is the penultimate writer and director section for the Walking Dead main show itself.
Does penultimate means the thing before the last thing, right?
Right. Yes.
That's what that means. Oh, nice. What a great word to use. You should use it some more this episode.
Well, I think, I don't think people are using it enough. And so I think any chance we have to bring up, like I think this will be like the second to last time I'll ever say it. So this is the penultimate time I will say penultimate in this podcast. Yes.
I love it.
So there we go. So, all right. So again, this episode has 3 writers, and yes, you're right. That normally means, wow, a lot of rewrites by somebody. But one of them should sound, well, all of them should sound familiar. The writers are this gal named Magali Lozano, and I'm not sure about that first name, Magali, Magali Lozano, and then Eric Mountain and Kevin Diebold. And if those names sound familiar, they should, because Magali Lozano wrote last week's episode, and she wrote this one as well. These are the 2 episodes on The Walking Dead that she has written, okay? Now, so again, that would be, she wrote... Actually, I take it back. She's written 3 episodes. She wrote 11:10 as well. So she wrote 3 episodes in season 11. 11:10 is entitled New Haunts, and that's where it's Halloween in the Commonwealth, and Daryl and Rosita go through the Stormtrooper training, if you remember that one.
I do.
And then she wrote whatever the one was last week, Faith, and then she wrote Family. So those are the 3 that she's written. And then Kevin Diebold, who is a producer on the show, he came on board in season 10, and he wrote 3 episodes. Then he wrote 10:06 entitled Bonds, and that is the one where Carol and Daryl leave Alexandria to go out and look for Alpha's horde. So it's not the one where they run into the mine shaft. It's the one where she catches a Reaper and is like torturing him out in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
And Daryl's kind of like, because, and she's like, come on, we'll just go out and look. And then they get this Reaper, and then suddenly she has all these zip ties and stuff to tie him up and torture him. And Daryl's like, what the hell are you doing? Then she wrote 10:15 entitled The Tower. And that, interesting enough, would have been the penultimate episode of season 10. And strangely enough. And that's she wrote that with Julia Ruckman, and that's the first appearance of Princess, and the main group leaves Alexandria and they go to the old hospital, and it's the first time we see Elijah and the metal mask and all that stuff. And then she wrote 10:17, or sorry, Kevin Diebold, wrote 10:17, which is Home Sweet Home, and she, he wrote that with Corey Reed. That is one of the COVID bonus episodes, and it's when Maggie first comes back into the show, and we're introduced to the Reapers, where the one Reaper guy is hunting them, and they're running around the woods trying to get them. And then in season 11, he wrote 3 episodes. He wrote 11:06, which is On the Inside, and that is the really, really good Connie and Virgil story that we really liked, in the house with the weird people that scurry around, and a lot of it is from Connie's point of view, so there's no sound and all that stuff.
Oh,
so really
such
good.
A great episode.
One of our favorites, yeah. And then they wrote 11:15, which again, penultimate episode of the second trimester. And that episode is entitled Trust, and that's the one that starts out with Maggie on the gates of Hilltop, and Hornsby and all the stormtroopers are outside, and they're like, it didn't have to be this way. And then Daryl takes his helmet off and goes, yeah, it did. That's that one. And then obviously they wrote Family. So this one here as well. And then our third writer is, again, a guy named Eric Mountain, which we've mentioned quite a bit before. And he is, again, much like Kevin Diebold, he is also a producer on the show. And he came on board in season 10. He wrote the episode One More with Jim Barnes. That is the Aaron and Gabe meet the character Maze, played by Robert Patrick, which, again, I think we kind of like that one out of those COVID bonus stories.
Sure thing.
And then in this season, he wrote 1108, which was the first trimester's finale, and that was called For Blood, and that, of course, is the one with the ha-wa-cha-cha-cha-cha and the slowly filling basement of doom water style with Gracie and Judith. Then he wrote 2 episodes back to back in the middle trimester. He wrote 1113 Warlords. He wrote that with Jim Barnes as well, and that's the introduction of the Riverbend community and the first appearance of the character Carlson, where Aaron and I think Gabriel go with the guy to kind of talk the Riverbend people, and and they meet Negan and find out he's married and all that stuff. Then he wrote 1114, The Rotten Core, also with Jim Barnes, and that's the conclusion of that story of the Riverbend folk. And then in the last trimester here, he wrote 1120, which is entitled What's Been Lost, which we just did. That's Daryl and Carol free Hornsby, and Yumiko decides she's going to defend Eugene, and then wrote Family. So that is our 3 writers. Nice. And then our director is a guy named Sharat Raju. Maybe it's Sharat, but however you pronounce it. And he has directed a bunch of episodes across the Walking Dead spectrum. He directed 1 episode last season, episode 1013, What We Become. And then in season 11 here, he wrote 1107, Promises Broken, 1108 For Blood, which Eric Mountain wrote. That's the one with the ha-wa-cha-cha-cha-cha. And then he wrote 1123, which is Family, where we're talking about now. And then on Fear the Walking Dead, sadly, he directed 4 episodes. He directed 413, Blackjack, which is a John Dory story where we learn about his love of the candies. He directed 506, which is entitled Little Prince, and I think we all hated that episode. Yes. 606. So basically he did like 1 in season 4, 1 in season 5, 1 in season 6, and 1 in season 7. And in season 6, he wrote 606, which is Bury Her Next to Jasper's Leg, which we both liked that episode title, but not really the episode. Yeah. And then in season 7, he directed episode 16, the season finale, and that and is entitled Gone, which of course is the Madison comes back and has a really weird backstory that doesn't make any sense. Yes. And then over on World Beyond, he directed episode 103, The Tiger and the Lamb, if you remember that one. So,
I do.
Yeah. So that is our writing team and our director. And just going to throw a little prediction out. We already know that next week the director is going to be the one and only Greg Nicotero. But what do you think the odds are that at least one of the writers next week might be a certain Angela Kang?
I think that's possible.
I do too. I think that's highly likely. So
highly likely. So. All right, so the way this whole section of the season has been starting off has been with these Judith little monologues at the beginning, these narrations, sort of jumping back and forth. And this one was really interesting because it was more about, I'd say it was more about her, don't you think? She was sort of personalizing it in a way that the rest of them hadn't been. She was talking about
her mom and her dad.
Yep. She was talking about, this final fight. There's a bunch of people that need to fight that, had sort of put their things away. And she was talking about, I never got to meet my real mom, Lori. And I was like, you never got to meet your real dad. We're gonna leave that alone. I
have a note later on, so we'll
I saw your note. We'll get there. There. And I'm sure everybody is like tee-hee-heeing about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But she talks about not getting enough time with her brother, with Carl, mm-hmm. With her dad, with and she talks about her mom Michonne and putting up her sword and putting it away for a really long time until she needed it again. But she does bring up something really important, and I think it was the most important thing that was in the narration, which was choosing mercy over wrath. I think was the thing. I mean, obviously the whole family theme was there as well, because she's reminiscing about her actual blood family and chosen family. But I think the bringing up I think it had more resonance for the rest of the episode and things that happened later on, bringing up the Rick's, it's Carl. That was Carl's dream, was to have things go a certain way, and Rick choosing mercy over wrath in some important moments. And then right after that narration, we get the scene with Judith and whatever, and she even talks about it to other people. This isn't what my brother wanted. This isn't the world that Carl wanted. He wanted to, and she's thinking of the future and all of that. So I really think I think we should be prepared in the next episode to see a mercy over wrath choice happen at some point.
Okay.
I have thoughts on who I think it'll be, but I really think that we are being, set up to have that kind of a moment.
You sure you don't mean that there could be a Mercer over wrath choice?
No. I think Mercer will have a lot of wrath. And I'm not sure you'll be able to hold him back, especially if anything bad happens to Princess. But yeah, I have some specific thoughts on that. But what were your thoughts on how her narration rolled out this week with sort of reminisce, and also we're heading into war sort of again?
Again, yeah. With no Scott Gimple in charge, so different kind of war. I agree. I mean, it was the same but different in that it was her again and doing the narration, but the narration itself was much more affecting. Right.
Correct.
She was talking about her family. She was talking about her mom, her dad, whereas the other episodes with the narration done by her, it's more of a general, people.
Mm-hmm.
When when the dead started to walk, people did this, people did that.
Right.
We had to learn to band together, whatever it was. Whereas here she's talking about my mom, my dad. It's much more personal about her, and that was different. And obviously as the story unfolds, Judith literally is number one with a bullet.
Right.
In terms of importance of what's going on. So you're right. The fact that she brings up this whole, my mom wanted, had this philosophy, my dad had this philosophy, and my brother had this dream vision. Is Angela Kang setting us up to, when next week, when someone has a chance to, kill someone, will we have the "don't do it," moment?
Yeah. That's what I think. That's what I think's going to happen.
Yeah, and
it's almost sort of reminding you,
Right. See, I'm really hoping that Daryl will just, lop off Pamela's head and then have like the arterial spray hit him right in the face, and then he'll look over at Judith, and Judith will have this horrified look, and he'll just go, "What?" in true Rick Grimes, fashion. That's what I would be hoping for, but that's me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're dead on. I think you're dead on that. This narration was different in what it was saying and how it was affecting her, as opposed to kind of just like you had brought up. It almost sounded like the earlier narration we've got, in these episodes. It almost sounded like she was telling a story.
Right.
And this one, it still had that feeling, but it was much more personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Almost like she's coming to the end of the story, and she's personalizing her whole sort of thing she's saying, whatever that may be. Yeah. So
maybe it's like the speech she's giving to St. Peter in front of the pearly gates.
Anything's possible. I mean, we've seen zombies. Why not see ethereal, gods and goddesses and who knows what all else?
I know. Pearly gates.
I know. Listen. Kirkman would do anything.
Well, so I always wondered, like, how are the gates? Are they like are they like, mounted on the clouds? How does that work? I never got that.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna get an answer to that one.
All right.
That feels like a real long shot, but it's not. There's a non-zero chance that we could see that. So there you go.
So you're saying there's a chance?
It's possible. So, we get this, we see everybody sort of getting ready to mount up at Alexandria now that the sort of little warden guy was put down and that whole, moment was quelled. And
hey, we got to see the warden.
We did, he's missing some of his face, but he's still there.
He was there, and so was the ghoul. They obviously put the ghoul down because he was lying right next to him. So
I did appreciate too the attention to detail as they're sort of walking back and forth, and in Alexandria in that like sort of big wide open area in the middle, they're walking back and forth. They're getting supplies, they're coming to the bus and whatever. In the background, the Commonwealth soldiers are like tied up,
sitting on the ground.
Yeah, so they obviously they're like cuffed and sitting on the ground because they can't be trusted.
I was a little disappointed we didn't see that one trooper that the warden denied his request to go see his dying brother back in the common. You know what I mean? That Negan kind of played on his sympathies a little. That I thought that guy was a prime candidate to be one of our heroes, and I did not see him. I don't know if anyone else did, and you might have seen something on social media or something that pointed him out, but I didn't see him.
I didn't, and honestly, I forgot a little bit about him. I guess it'd be fine if we don't see him again, but I think that'd be an interesting thing to see is, maybe, because obviously the end of the episode we'll get there, but Mercer's taken into custody and whatever, so that's going to involve like there's going to need to be a little bit of an internal soldier revolt in order to get him popped out of prison or out of a jail cell. So maybe this soldier will figure prominently at some point again. Maybe they're not done. Maybe they'll show him again. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's a possibility. I don't remember seeing him. I will say that. I don't remember seeing him on the ground, so he wasn't sort of tied up, but I also I did not see him that I remember with any of our crew leaving Alexandria to sort of go and, storm the castle, as it were.
I did want to ask, there's a scene there then where, Maggie and Negan have their little moment by the back of the bus, and leading up to that, this woman brings this box, and it almost looks like it's an Ernst box full of dynamite type thing, and she hands it to Maggie, and she's like, "Hey Maggie, here you go." Who's that? Is that someone we should know who that is?
No, I think that's just a background character. Yeah, I searched her. I didn't know who she was. I think they're just trying, like, since we're getting towards the end, they're trying to show like there was a mixture of like, all of our people there from Hilltop and Alexandria that were sort of, and maybe there's people there that were just disappeared by the Commonwealth there. So she may just be a Commonwealth person.
Okay.
I'm curious to see if that's going to be a part of it too. Are we going to see, because we saw like the kid, the soldier, Tyler, right? You looked his name up right before I started.
Yeah.
We saw some follow through with him coming back. So I'm hoping that when all is said and done, part of the group will be, these people came with us to come back to the Commonwealth to demand some justice here. And they are also people that were, for no reason whatsoever, were sent away from their families and, sent to work in these work camps and blah, blah, blah. It'd be nice to see some follow up with that.
I was just wondering, because you're the name person, and so I'm looking at that gal, and I'm like, she doesn't look familiar to me, but maybe I'm waiting for you to be like, oh yeah, if you go back to season 6, episode 3, she walks by in the background and winks at Dara, or so, and I'd be like, oh okay, but all right, so it's not someone that we should know who that is.
She didn't look familiar. I'm not saying she didn't show up in an episode at some point, but she wasn't someone that looked familiar to me from a past episode at any point. So
okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. I don't know. So they are they're prepping to get out of there. They're bringing stuff to the bus, the truck. Rosita's like, let's go. She's like,
Right.
my
Coco
baby.
is waiting.
We gotta go find my baby. So she's freaking out. Maggie and Negan, like you were saying, they had their little scene at the back of the bus, which was really interesting. I was very happy, before we get into that Maggie Negan scene, very happy to see Diane again.
Yes.
I think that was a nice little sort of showing that someone who was, after a bit, like, Diane became less of a background character and more of a guest starring character. She was in a lot of episodes, especially, we were talking about when they were trying to build Alexandria back up after the Whisperer War, and they had the big storm with all the flooding, and she was very prominent in a lot of those, that whole episode arc.
Oh yeah.
And she's great, and it's great to have her, have some kind of resolution to her character, so that you're like, oh, she is still around, And there's a few others that I think it'd be great to see as well, and I really, really hope that we will see a couple of more of the background characters, whether it's during some of the fighting or maybe some of the resolution at the end. Maybe we'll see some. But it was great to see Diane. Yay, Carrie Cahill. So nice. But yeah, that great scene at the back of the bus with Maggie and Negan. You put a little note in there as well.
Oh, I just laughed. There were a lot of like ironic moments in this episode for me. And that was just one because, Negan, in typical Negan fashion, is like, so how are you going to kill Pamela? Because, he says something like, as far as I'm concerned, none of us are safe as long as she's still breathing. Right. And he basically is advocating, look, let's just you and I go and do this because we can do it together. We can take her out.
Yeah.
And we don't have to risk everybody else. Everyone else can stay here and fortify Alexandria and be, relatively safe, right? I'm using air quotes here. And she just is having none of it and just looks at him and says, what does she say? She goes, "We're not a we." And then she walks away. And I was literally like, Mags? Baby, have you seen any of the info on the spinoff show? Because I think you are a we.
There's a couple of promos. I just want to show them to you. That's fine.
Yes,
you don't have to comment on them. Just want you to know.
Just want you to know. Yeah, there's a we coming. Okay.
Yeah, it's you may not want it, but it's coming.
But
it's
coming.
a coming.
Yeah.
It's a coming. They do leave Alexandria area via the train.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a cute little moment where, like, Princess is like, so does anyone know how to, like, she's like, drive the train, ride
Conduct
the train, engineer, like, who, like, conduct? She's like, is that the right word? It was hilarious how she was like, and I'm not sure if she just never knew the right word, or is it like, are we so removed from normal life 10 years later, like, it's not something that's a part of your daily vocabulary. It's like, I forget. The person who runs the train, who is that? What does he do? What's the act of running the train?
They're engineering the train, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't,
something. Yeah. So I mean, they figured it out. Like one of the other prisoners used to be an engineer on the train and was pretty sure he was going to be able to do it. But yeah, that was just a funny little moment, which she's just like, how it can. And it's one of those things where if they hadn't addressed it, we would have been like, so they just magically know how to drive that train.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what that line was.
Yes.
And they came up with a way to make it funny.
Yes.
And give everybody kind of a little chuckle. But yeah, yes. I mean, that was totally, someone in the writer's room, read that script when they were kicking it around before, in pre-production, and someone went, how do they know how to drive the train?
Yeah.
And
they're
the
like,
writer,
oh shit. Let's write this 3 lines.
Yeah, somebody else in the camp knows how to. Well, we should make sure that the audience knows that, and so that boom, that happened. Yeah, I totally see that happening. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So they leave via the train. there's a couple of really great scenes on the train. First off, though, before they even show scenes in the train, there's a really great, like, the train is going, you get a great drone shot up above, and it's just like clackety clack, clackety clack, clackety clack, and then it shows Ghoul on a train track, and he's just like rawr, rawr, and then smash.
Oh yeah, so I loved it
everywhere.
I was gonna ask you, did you think that was Nicotero?
Oh, I didn't look close at him. Did it look like Nicotero?
Well, he had long hair.
Oh,
you know, kind of that kind of hippy dippy hair that Greg Nicotero rocks. So I know you had brought up the fact that there, you know, he's going to be directing the episode next week, and then you said, you know, he always loves to kind of insert himself as a ghoul throughout the show, because he's done it like, you know, 7 times or whatever so far. So that kind of planted a little seed in my brain. And so when I saw that, because that was kind of like a spotlight ghoul, right? I mean, it was just the one, and we focused on him. And again, there was nothing else about it that's screamed to me Greg Nicotero. I was looking at it initially to see if it was one of our serial killer guys.
Right.
But I couldn't make any connection with that. And then I thought, I wonder if that might be Nicotero. Like, maybe because the next episode he's directing, it's going to take up too much of his time. And so he did the little ghoul appearance in this one because he's not, you know, directing this one or something.
Right.
But anyway, I just, again, I'm asking you because you tend to surf the web a little bit more heavily than I do. And I thought maybe you might have heard some chatter from some of the other Walking Dead folk about, did you see Nicotero get hit by the train? You know.
I didn't see any chatter about it. I did not watch Talking Dead. I ran out of time last night to watch Talking Dead, and to be fair, I didn't want to be spoiled with the scene they're gonna show, some clip or whatever.
Right.
So I chose. I'm gonna keep it in the DVR, and I'm gonna try and watch it when everything's done. But yeah, I didn't watch, and that's usually where they would be like, you know, here's some info and behind the scenes, and they always do a spotlight on the ghouls that die anyway.
Right.
But I didn't see anyone talking about it online either. So I mean, it could have been him. It totally could have, and maybe people just weren't looking for it. You know.
Interesting.
We'll have to look and see.
And actually, you know, just so little clarification, that there is a really cool drone shot of the train, but that's not at this moment. It happens a little bit later. So
okay.
So,
right.
but I could totally see how you'd think they were together, because there's another really cool drone shot that happens that I put down in my notes, and then it cuts to a commercial break, and then when it comes back from commercial, it's on the drone shot of the train. So that's how I know that. So anyway, well, continue.
Yeah, so sort of jumping around a little bit notes wise. You've got the train ghoul there. I thought that there was a really great moment with Mercer and Pamela in her office, where they're doing a whole, like, I'm not saying what I'm thinking, but I'm doing enough, like, you know, read through the lines, like, talking, so that, you know, I'm not saying what I'm really saying. And she responds with exactly the same tone. But the way she finishes it is she's just like, just do your job, Michael. Keep everybody safe. And I'm like, ugh, God, her tone is just, ugh. She just talks down to everybody. I mean, Lila Robbins is great. She's doing such a great job as Pamela. And she just, like, she's always done a good job of playing, like, unlikable characters. She played a really, really good unlikable character on Blacklist. So that's what I know her most from.
Right.
And so I was set up for, like, oh, she's going to do great, because Pamela Milton is an unlikable character, and she is just eating it up. She's doing such a great job. But yeah, that was a nice little sort of toe-to-toe, like, I'm not saying what I'm saying, but I'm saying other things. And she's like, well, I'm not saying what I'm saying. I'm saying other things too. And we're just looking at each other. And I'm sure that other female general that's there is probably like, Oh
What the
God,
yeah.
these two.
The Colonel, yeah.
Yeah, Colonel. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing about that is I first of all I love that scene too. Again, and it's a chance for Lila Robbins to just kind of chew the scenery in that
Oh
office
yeah.
set. I mean, if you look closely in one of the scenes, she actually has a stapler in her mouth. It's great. The only thing that kind of struck me a little hinky about it was Mercer seemed awful willing to lay down his cards there. Because the way he's talking about, like, well, a bunch of people disappeared from the Commonwealth and, never found out about them, maybe, and then just like, really, is that the tone you want to be taking since you've decided to, fork some shirt up now and you're going to tip your hand right away when, by his own admission, he still has to find enough soldiers to help him later on, right? It's just, again, I loved it. I thought it was a great scene. I just was like, it might have been a little too early. You come out, if you're Mercer, you come out with that kind of response to Pamela when you've got the guys on your side to win, right?
Yeah. And he doesn't know that yet. He's not carrying all the cards just yet.
Yeah. I mean, he's like in the process, and it's like now is the time you still want her to believe that you're a true believer and not are actively plotting, because how does that scene end, right? She looks at the Colonel and goes, keep an eye on him, so clearly she is not buying what he's selling. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. It was still good to see. That's one of those things where it's like you're saying the stuff that I want to hear, and I'm loving every bit of it, even though structurally speaking and logically speaking, you wouldn't be doing these things. But you're like, but I'm enjoying the words you're saying so much that I'm just like, screw logic.
And it was
say
what
great.
You
want to say.
Yeah, it was super great. That character was Colonel Vickers was her name.
Oh yeah. And that scene leads right into a replay of something we've already seen Pamela do, which is her tried and true B-17. And no, she's not playing bingo, folks.
No, she's not. Although, I both times that it's happened, my brain, being a child of the 70s and the 80s, I go straight to Olivia Newton-John. So my note was Olivia Newton-John must be spitting in her freshly connected grave, right? And that she had a hit, one of her hits before, I think it was before Grease, maybe it was right after, it was right in that time frame. It was a song called Please Mr. Please. And it's the woman, the storyteller in the song is telling this guy at a bartender to not play a song on the jukebox. And for a portion of our audience, a jukebox was a device that would be in a bar or restaurant that had a whole bunch of songs on it, and you'd put a quarter in it, and you'd usually get one, maybe two songs, and you would type in a letter and a number to indicate which one you wanted, and the letter number combination that she was begging the bartender not to play was B-17. And so whenever I hear that, I'm always like, no, please, Mr. Please, don't do a B-17. So
yeah, definitely.
But yes,
so no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so here we have yet another like coordinated swarm.
Yes.
I much prefer horde than swarm, I have to say.
Yeah, horde is, or herd is what I'm used to.
Horde. Yeah, it's but anyway, it's what Pamela has kind of. You can tell that this is kind of like you said, it's the tried and true way to kind of clear the streets. Kind of when, if the riffraff, the lower class, is upset about something and they're starting to make a nuisance of themselves, we just drum up a horde, have the soldiers go out in the wild and round up a bunch and lead them close to the city, and then they call the red alert, and you know what, you got to go disperse, and it's not because we don't want you to protest, it's for your safety.
Yeah,
you
where
know.
have we heard that before?
Right, absolutely. And so this is what, she is just following the playbook at this point. And I think, didn't we, isn't there also like a real quick scene of like a people in the streets chanting with signs and stuff, and
Yeah,
right?
It does. They do show that a little bit, sort of establishes it that it's still going on outside. Yeah.
Yeah. So and Mercer even says, people are upset with the verdict, and when she's like, "Are you telling me that he just somehow got away?" And Mercer's like, "Yeah, someone must have helped him," and he's like, "Yes, it was you," but
Yeah.
but he's like, and then he points out, "Look, someone must have helped him because let's be honest, listen what's going on. People are not happy with what just happened."
Yeah.
So, but you're right. So she uses the old playbook.
Yes.
And has pulled the swarm up. But as we see, because this is the second to last episode,
Yes. There's a fancy word for that.
There is, but I already said I wasn't going to say it anymore, so I can't really go back on that. But in fact, this will be the second to last time I ever say that in this episode.
Yes.
I just want you to know that. But anyway, because the show is ending, this time the B-17 is not going to work out the way that Pamela thinks it will.
Right, exactly. It's interesting because how do you have a group of, this is the part I never understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Mercer knows about B-17 as a tactic.
Right.
I think there's some sort of black ops, whatever. So how do you keep a whole section of the soldiers under your wing and have them have like a separate, they have to have some kind of separate walkie-talkie. How do you control that? And how it's just there's a lot of moving parts on there. It's hard to have like a conspiracy like that with so many people involved and have nobody and have nobody say anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like that'd be a difficult thing to pull off, but I mean it's fiction, so it's easier to pull it off in practice, in theory rather than in practice, when it's in fiction like that. So yeah.
I kind of, my take on it is that you're right, that this is a part, Mercer is not in on that part of the operations of the Commonwealth, that he's the commander of the army, but there are parts of the army he's not in command of. And you're right, it's like, how do they keep that a secret? How do those troopers that are out driving those Jeeps, shining the spotlights in the ghouls' faces and everything, leading them around, how do those guys not come back and get drunk and tell their girlfriend, and then suddenly their girlfriend tells his wife, and then there's a divorce, but the secret is out? You know what I mean? It's like, how does these people not spill the beans? Because it's not just one or two guys, it's
right.
a bunch. And as you said, that's it's hard enough for two people to keep a secret. How does 100 people, and so on?
Exactly.
And I think you're right. It's like, what, in reality, the secret probably would get out, but this is a show, and just it doesn't. So just move on.
I know we're trying to insert logic into something that really doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So B-17 is a thing, and then of course we go right from that to images of the actual swarm that's moving, and you see those soldiers sort of change from we're moving them along to, well, now we're out in front and now we're leading them someplace. We're bringing them to a specific area, and we get our group that's stuck in the swarm, because unfortunately they were trying to hide there so they could get away, and then all of a sudden they started herding the swarm together. And then when they did that, they're like, and it was probably a mixture. Do you think that in the beginning they were looking for anybody's trying to hide within the swarm? Do you think that that's a possibility, or were they just herding them up together?
I think those soldiers were just trying. They were told to go out and round up as many ghouls as you can.
Yeah,
and
it's possible. Yeah,
and I think, like you said, Aaron and his group, excuse me, they needed, cover because there were soldiers looking for them and there was a big group of ghouls coming up on them. So, they're just this is their decision. And now, like you said, they're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah.
They can't break away because it's daytime and the soldiers will see them and either go to round them up and get them back or realize, hey, wait a minute, those aren't ghouls, and so what are you going to do? So they're kind of, like, we got to keep moving. And then finally, Aaron kind of sees their chance. And I did love the whispering that they did. I thought that was a nice touch, particularly with Aaron, because Aaron hates the whisperers, and yet now he has to like basically be one. Oh, it must be killing him.
And I'm sure it's gotta suck. Yeah, they whisper along. They're like, to the trees, which of course made me think of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, when they come in, they're like, to the trees. And they just like yell it like a big ding dong. Yeah. So that was in my head, and I was not taking that moment seriously the first time I watched it through. I was just like thinking of something else.
Nice.
And then they start to like slowly make their way across because there's some tree cover on the right hand side. They're like starting to do that, and they're just about ready. And then this motorcycle comes out of nowhere.
Right.
And motorcycle was one thing. They might have been able to still slide in there, but the motorcycle was leading a whole other swarm.
Right. Yeah.
On the other side of these woods, and they all meet up together to make this super swarm. Well, now they're screwed. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why, and this is just me, so talk me down from this wall. I don't understand why, while they're shambling, couldn't they have continued to shamble but have been slow shamblers? Like, couldn't they have just taken their pace down a little bit and let some of the ghouls pass them? Because you got to figure, like, they do move as a group, but they're not all moving at the same pace.
No,
I'm sure there are slower ghouls amongst there. They're probably broken and whatever. So I'm like, why didn't they just slow their pace a little and, like, not walk backwards, but just sort of like, then they could sort of slide over into the woods and be there. And I don't know. It just seemed interesting. And then, but the good part, that was a moment where I was like, why don't they just still go there and just slow down a little bit and still do the woods? But as soon as I was having those thoughts, it went away because like you made a note on your notes, and it's totally true. They showed this really great drone shot of those two swarms coming together and converging and making like a big, huge horde of zombies. And you see that first of all, that's impressive. Mm-hmm. That's the first part of the drone shot that's impressive, is them coming together, and you see how large the swarm is, the herd, the horde, whatever you want to call it. But then the drone shot actually tilts back a little, and you see that, there's like a road. They're following a road. It's going through. There's a little bit of a wooded area, and geez, there's the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
This is really great. Gives you an idea of this is what B-17 is. We're putting it right in front of you. We're creating a swarm. We're leading them, and we're bringing them right here. And it was great. I thought that was a fantastic shot.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool. And right before it happens, like you said, Aaron kind of sees their opportunity, and they're trying to kind of move to the right and get to the tree line. And then the motorcycle and the Jeep shows up, and they're leading that second, group to form, this even bigger group. And then the soldiers get some radio messages of, okay, get back to base and, go back to like your normal duties. So and so they kind of race off, and it's right when that happens that you get this great drone shot, and it's like you said, it's looking straight down, and you see the Jeeps and the motorcycles pulling away, but you see these two groups of ghouls kind of merging into one big one, and then the drone tilts, the camera tilts up so it's looking across the horizon, and you're right. Like maybe like what, a mile, 2 miles away is the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Right. And they're right there,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a really, really cool shot. And it really helped sell the idea that, okay, you know what, this is a lot of ghouls and they're very close to the Commonwealth.
And they're hungry. They're very hungry.
They are.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. The only thing too, I did notice, I loved the shot, but you're also showing that as they go further down, there was like a couple of different wooded areas as well. So I'm like, oh, well, they can just slide off to the left
Yeah,
a little
right,
further down. And I'm
yeah,
like,
I thought so too. Yeah.
I'm like, maybe that drone shot maybe we should have scrubbed a little bit more of the trees and made it a little more,
See, you can't be thinking too much. You just got to kind of let it happen,
Let it go, man. Just let it go.
To kind of talk you off the wall about the first part of why couldn't they just kind of slow down?
Yeah.
The only thing I have for you at all, and maybe this will, get you off the wall, maybe not.
Probably not.
We see what happens when they try and stop in front of the RV.
Yeah.
In that several of them are just it's almost like they're in like a river with a strong current and they're just washed further down.
Right.
And you'd have to think that, they can't act too non-ghoulish, if that's the right way to say it. You know what I mean? They still have to kind of play the part, because even though they're drenched in the guts, if they suddenly do something human, the ghouls are going to be like, I wasn't too sure about you, and now I'm going to eat you. So
you may smell right, but you're doing everything else is wrong.
Yeah, so they're kind of limited, right, in what they can do, and like we see Luke and Luke's girlfriend and Elijah kind of get washed on down past the RV when all they try and do is get in, right? They just try and step into the opening. So I think that's something they're trying to fight with too. And you kind of get that sense, like when Aaron is like really desperately trying to move to the right, but he's doing it so deliberately so not to give it away.
Yeah.
So does that help?
True. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I have other things. Once we get to the RV, we'll talk some more about, Walker behavior and how to blend in a little better.
Would that be old school Dale's holistic rest and recuperation RV?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you not think it was Dale's RV when you saw it?
I had thoughts about that. I'm wondering if they just had it because it was like a nice callback.
That's my guess too. Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think, is that they must have thought about having a nice callback there. It was really cool. We sort of pivot away from our, now our travelers are a little bit, SOL, because crap. Now here's another 1,000 zombies coming up on the right, flanking us, and now they're leading us to, certain doom. We got to figure something out quick. But they, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. So then when it comes back from with the commercial break, you're right. It does jump back to the train, and like I was telling you before, then it goes from that drone shot of the ghouls in the Commonwealth to a drone shot of the train clickety clacking down the tracks.
Nice. And we go inside the train, and we've got a couple of different really great scenes going on in there. First, we get they're sort of chatting up the soldier. They're trying to get some kind of communication device working, and he's talking with Princess, and she's like, dude, I'm glad you're sorry, but I don't have time for your sorries.
Yeah.
And so he just goes upon like helping, sticking an antenna out the top of the train if possible. They're trying to put together a signal and send a message. And so Kelly and Connie and Magna start chatting him up, and they start saying it's we're glad we found you, and and he's like, I shouldn't have acted that way, meaning at that reception when he sort of threatened, he had the knife at someone's throat, and
I think it was Magna.
Yeah.
Or was it Connie?
I honestly, I can't remember. And so in that whole moment, he's apologizing. As like, I shouldn't have acted that way. I shouldn't have done a lot of things. He seems very regretful. And it's funny because he says like 3 lines, and then Connie looks at Magna and she's just like, he's sorry.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious. And so Connie comes back and she's like, look, we were trying to find you. You were she was pretty much saying like, you took a moment to make sure you were heard. And that, like that's brave to do pretty much. And, he's feeling bad and he's like, I shouldn't have acted that way. And it was, it was wrong to sort of threaten someone, like to be physical like that. And he's apologizing to the group, and they're like, and Connie makes a comment where she's like, well, you have a chance to sort of redeem yourself and redeem your transgressions or whatever. And I'm like, oh, sweet Tyler, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're really, really dead. Like,
yeah.
I'm really sorry, but there's really just no getting around it. Your shirt is all of a sudden very red right now.
Yeah, it was definitely and we're going to move on to the right. You're dead.
Yeah, exactly. So they sort of pivot away from there, and we're still in the train car, and then we get, another fantastic Ezekiel and Negan scene. What did you think about that scene?
It was the highlight of the episode.
Easily,
without a doubt. Again, two powerhouse actors getting a chance to just act. With no zombies, no special effects, no nothing. And it was great. It was powerful. Both guys got to kind of have their Emmy moment.
Yes.
And Ezekiel does that great, and yet I smile speech.
Yeah.
Right. Which is just so nice. And then, Negan comes right back at him and has this, I'm real curious what the Walking Dead, masses are going to make of that. Is that, are people going to look at this speech as, see, he's totally changed? Or are they going to be, is there still going to be some skepticism of, you could just be playing a part? What did you think?
I think it was the best way to write that scene. I think that scene needed to happen just as much as the scene that Ezekiel had with him before. It was like, you have no idea what you took from me, and that's what makes it terrible, pretty much, was, when he's like, you took all these things from me, and I can tell from your face you have no idea what that is. And Ezekiel's just so angry, and it was just so unexpected, because we've had Negan's been on the, he's been on the I'm sorry tour, the redemption tour, for the last season or so, and it was nice to see someone kind of put him in his place with, I will never forgive you. You will. Right. Doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what you do. You will never be forgiven by me because of what you did to me. Plain and simple. And here's this moment where they get to sort of expound on that in a better way. They talk more about, it becomes clear. Apparently Ezekiel was supposed to be the one that was put forward. And then Negan sort of grabbed the reins, and he did it because of his kid. And he, and he explains it away, and he's like, I wanted people to talk about me in a way that's different than how they do now, and how you guys remember me and whatever. And I wanted there to be something that was done that was selfless. And if it had worked out that way, it would have been a truly selfless act. He would have sacrificed himself to save his wife and his child, and it was like the rest of the group. And ultimately Ezekiel as well, because they had this whole plan. And I think the way his speeches and we both wrote down moments from the speech that he has, and you put the whole thing there. I think the point of the speech is, to me, more, he acknowledges that he did bad things, and he acknowledges that they all have every right to feel the way they do. And he can't, there's nothing he can do to change that. The only thing he can do is try and move forward and do good things and be a different person as best he can. And I think he acknowledges that for some people, like Ezekiel, they will never forgive him. And he knows that. And his saying that thing about, you know, knowing that they're all better than he is. He's not, he has changed how he looks at the world, but he hasn't changed who he is really how I feel about Negan. Because when given the moment to choose between mercy and wrath, it might be him that's got to make that choice. He's going to err on the side of wrath. He's
pretty
a
much,
wrath guy.
Yeah.
And he'll always be pushed to that point. You know, we are who we are. And I think he has different tactics now. Like he doesn't have to tap into that well, because he's sort of created a different narrative for himself and a different life and different surroundings. And he's made the things that are important to him have shifted. And so that helps him tap into parts of himself that he's never been able to tap into before, you know, loving husband, loving father, you know, selfless and things like that. But it doesn't change the fact that those other parts of his personality are still there, and he knows that. He knows that being with Annie and having a kid and leaning into that part of his life makes him a better person. But he acknowledges the fact that those other parts of his personality are still there. He's still Negan, no matter what. And I think people are going to see in this scene what they want to see. If you hate Negan, you're going to see him. I mean, he still didn't apologize. And if you love Negan, you're going to be like, look, he's so sorry. He had this great scene.
Yeah,
you know.
So he beat a couple people with a bat. Come on.
Big deal. You know, whatever. I think a small group of people look at Negan the way I do. I think he brings out either the hot or the cold. There's not a lot of people that sit in the middle like I do. I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a fantastic actor. I think that Negan is a complicated character. And I think that episodes are better when he's in them because he is a complicated character. But he's not a good person. And he can try and do as many good things as possible. But he is the same as Tony Soprano, as Walter White, as those characters. He is the anti-hero, you know, and we love him because it's, you know, Breaking Bad without Walter White would be so boring, you know. The Sopranos are not the Sopranos without Tony Soprano. You can't do that. So he has become sort of this lifeline of a show, and there are other characters that everybody loves and they speaks to them, but his personality has become such an interwoven part of these last few seasons that it's like you can't imagine the show without him because of what he brings to the episode, what he brings to these people. You know, they need to have someone in their group who would do that stuff. You know, Maggie, there will be times where Maggie's going to hesitate. There's going to be a time where Carol might hesitate. Where, you know, it's possible. Negan won't. He's never going to hesitate. I don't know. I don't know how others. I think in terms of others, that's how I took that scene. I think in terms of others, like I said, I think people are going to see what they want to see in that scene because that's how it's been this whole season so far. This whole redemption arc that they've been doing, people either believe it and they're like, see, he's the best. or they don't believe it and they're like, he's never going to change, you know. So I think that a majority of people are going to fall on one side or the other through this, and it's I don't think that this scene is going to change someone's mind. Let's put it that way. It's not going to take someone who's hated Negan and make them go, you know what, I was wrong about that guy. he really is good and he's been changing. It's not gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen. You know, that's not me. What about you? How did that scene hit you in terms of like the whole Negan redemption, and is he a good person? Isn't he a good person?
Well, yeah, I kind of, I mean, that's a real interesting take that you have, but I kind of went a little bit different in the way that scene was, not just the way that the acting happened, just the way that scene was staged. I think a lot of it is, what I took out of it was, it's building the groundwork, setting up the Maggie and Negan spinoff, right?
Right.
Because we've talked about it, and a lot of folks have been talking about it. How in God's name is Maggie and Negan gonna go off together by themselves? I mean,
right.
That in a way that doesn't end with one of them coming back with a smoking pistol, right? I mean, it's just not gonna happen. That the way Maggie feels about Negan, there's just no way. And so we have to somehow change Maggie's opinion of Negan enough that she doesn't want to kill him every 5 seconds. Right? And so I think this scene goes a long way to help build that, because if you remember, it starts out and Negan asks Ezekiel, why did you, or he goes, did I ever thank you? I didn't thank you for doing what you did. And then he goes, why did you get in front of the rifles? And Ezekiel tells him, dying a martyr's too easy. I want you to live and do something with your life, and that'll keep me from giving into my anger, right? And then he has the great speech about, and yet I smile, about all the stuff he's overcome and all that, and it's great and everything. But then Negan does his whole thing about it's funny because it kind of flips, and then Ezekiel asks Negan, why did you give him your name and not mine? Like you pointed out, we had the plan, right? And you deviated. Why did you do that? And then he has his great moment where he talks about, I want to leave a better story about me than the current one you guys talk when you mention me, and at the end of that moment, I got the sense that while Ezekiel will never, be friends with Negan and will never like him,
right?
I got the sense that Ezekiel can live with Negan now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they're not going to be neighbors.
I can see that.
They're not going to be roommates. It's not going to be the zombie odd couple or anything like that. I mean, this is just, what? He now can imagine a world where Negan is in it.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that talk in the previous episode of, I avoided you for years, right? I never wanted to see you. I never wanted to go near you. I never wanted to acknowledge you because of all the pain and everything that he associates with Negan, rightfully so. But now, he has moved past that to where it's never going to be okay, but he can at least, imagine a world where Negan is there and not, be filled with anger. And again, mercy, wrath, right? We go back to what Judas says. But then if you notice at the end of that scene, when Negan says, you all are better than me, and if you think I don't know that, then you haven't been paying attention, the scene cuts to a shot of Maggie listening to their conversation. And again, I think the idea we're supposed to take from that is Ezekiel is like the president of the, I hate Negan fan club, right?
Right.
And if he is now finding ways to live with Negan and tolerate Negan and not want to string him up in the back, Maggie is maybe starting to rethink her credo a little. Right. And look at her worldview as, what, maybe Rick Grimes was right when he didn't kill Negan when he had the chance, right? They could have just let him bleed to death when his throat was cut. But they didn't. They saved him. Maybe that is the way, to make something good out of all the bad that's in this world. That's what I took from that scene. And again, that's a powerhouse scene, man. It is so good.
Oh, God.
And it's one of those things where it's like I could have used another 20 minutes of them going back and forth and not been bothered at all.
Yeah. What's great is when it first bubbled up, was it last episode or the episode before? I think it was the episode before, because it was them having to put together the plan that came to fruition in the last episode. So 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
The thing that I said at the time, I'm pretty sure when we chatted, was I just never even thought of this. They did such a good job within the show of keeping them apart that as soon as he started talking to him, I was like, shit, like I can't even, there's never been a scene with Ezekiel and Negan, not that I can think of, not a major one. And I was like, this is amazing. These are scenes that I didn't know that I needed. And I know that they've gotten a lot of flack for the whole, redemption story and forcing this sort of redemption upon people in this final season. I feel like they positioned Ezekiel very nicely to sort of be the fans who are like, he did terrible fucking things, and we like the character because he's engaging to watch, and JDM makes him a fun and great character to watch. And even JDM, like on social media, has been very like standoffish about he won't talk about the wives. That's the thing that pisses people off, is he won't talk about the wives thing and how, but he really leans into the whole, he needs to get redemption with Maggie for killing Glenn, and redemption with this person for killing this person. And he killed these people because he had to. I'm like, yeah, but he didn't have to like force women to marry him and sleep with him. He didn't have to do that.
Hey, he didn't. Okay. They had a choice.
They had a choice, right? It was would you like me to cut off your left hand or your right hand?
Yes. Oh, God.
That kind of choice. So I think they did a great job of having this really great arc between these two dynamic characters, because Ezekiel he's such a great dynamic character, and to put these guys head to head and kind of toe to toe and give Ezekiel the words, and they make sense in Ezekiel's mouth. It's not like they're sort of creating this drama so that Ezekiel can have no. Ezekiel has every right to have said all of those words. And they did a good job of keeping these characters apart, so everything rings true. But he's also speaking for the fans in that moment that are like, you can't just give us this series with Maggie and Negan and expect us to be like, okay, he's great, because there's no reason they should be together. And
right.
and I agree with you that a portion of this is trying to not just make him more palatable to like the fans about like getting ready, but it's showing Maggie like, if Ezekiel can handle him and can stomach him pretty much, because nobody has said they like him. They're just allowing him to be around. He's a resource right now. So if Ezekiel can sort of be that way, that you're right, then maybe Maggie is observing and is like, well, it's another body. We need as many people as possible to fight this war, and he's willing, and he's motivated because of Annie.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and like we pointed out, Maggie is the one with the biggest bone to pick with Negan, but number 2, probably Ezekiel.
Yeah, probably.
In terms of what, again, like you said, what he lost, what Negan took from him, all of that, and so again, the way they structure that scene, because after they get done with those great speeches, there is a shot of Maggie, and she's just sitting there, and you can tell she's drinking it all in. She's hearing what they're saying, and she's kind of like staring at the floor, like almost like drilling holes with her eyes. She's staring at it so hard, but clearly the wheels are turning, right? So yeah, that's what I took from that. But again, the best scene of the whole episode, without a doubt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was a quiet scene in a train car for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. And it's great because it's like they're on their way to like sort of unknown, like there's an unknown threat at the end. They don't know what they're gonna come into.
Right.
They have sort of a loose plan of what they're gonna do, but not really. It's pretty, usual for our crew.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out as we go along, kind of thing. And here's this really great scene just sort of wedged in there. I really, I'd love for you to like tell the stuff, do the two quotes that you did there. I do love the Ezekiel did the whole I'm not even supposed to be here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I thought that was, someone brought it up. It's a really great nod to he's really not. He lists all the reasons. This happened and yet I smile, and this happened and cancer and whatever. But those are all the reasons for Ezekiel, like the Kari Payton Ezekiel. But Ezekiel, the character, should have been gone a long time
ago. Yeah.
And so I thought that was a nice little sort of, tongue-in-cheek way to sort of poke at the comics that, it's totally true. Ezekiel really isn't supposed to be here. And that's part of the reason why that scene is so great, because it just didn't even happen. We didn't have this whole like, what would have happened with Ezekiel and Negan as Negan became more of like a person involved with, X, Y, and Z. He wasn't, because Ezekiel was gone. So I really, really liked that. But then you've got those two quotes there that are just great. The Ezekiel one and then the Negan one. You want to go ahead and...
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Give those a read, please.
Yeah. Again, Negan asks Ezekiel, or he thanks him for stepping in front of the guns at the end of the previous episode, right? And he asks him why you did it. Why would you risk your life for me, basically? And this is, again, coming after, Ezekiel told Negan in no uncertain terms exactly what he thinks about him in the previous episode, or 2 episodes ago, right? With the whole, you have no idea what you took from me, and that makes it that much more galling, and I hate you even more, And so Negan's like, why would you do that then? Why, after you clearly hate my guts, would you risk your life for me? And Ezekiel just looks at him and he goes, dying a martyr is too easy. He says, you living, making something positive out of your days, now that'll keep me from giving in to anger. And again, it's a beautiful line, and it Kari Payton nails it, and just shows you the depth and the compassion that this character has to, even in that moment where it would be so easy to just let those troopers blow Negan away. And then they're done. They're done with him, and they'll try and escape some other way because it's our guys and they always escape, right? And so it's like it would be a way to solve so many problems for so many people, and yet his again, mercy, wrath, he goes the path of mercy, going, no, you know what, saving you, giving you a chance to like earn this second life you have and make something that we don't hate happen. That is what is going to make me a better person, is giving you that opportunity. And it's going to make you a better person because you have a debt you have to repay. And it's wonderful. It really is. It's powerful, powerful stuff. And then again, then it flips, and Ezekiel asks, Negan, why did you give him your name and not mine? Because, as you said, clearly that was the plan, was Negan's supposed to rat out Ezekiel. Ezekiel has rallied enough people, and then when they pull him out in front of the group, there'll be the big, rising up of the prisoners, and, then Bob's your uncle. And so, he asks him why did you give him your name? And then Negan has this great speech where he basically tells him, I did it to leave a better story about me than the one you've been telling. That when it mattered, I did something right. And it wasn't to prove anything. It wasn't to get anything in return. Hell, it wasn't even to save my own ass. It was to save all of you. And then he kind of pauses and he goes, you all are better than me. And if you think that I don't know that, then you haven't been paying attention. And again, it's at that moment after he finishes that line that they cut to Maggie listening to them having that scene. So again, it's just, again, a great line delivered by an amazing delivery by an actor. So yeah, it's high quality performance right there all the way around.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of high quality. It's nice because the last couple of episodes, like we were saying, it's sort of, we were left sort of wanting something. And these are the things we want. We do want to wrap up the story. We do want to see resolution happen, and we want to see some death. I mean, let's be realistic here. But these moments between our characters, that's the reason why this show has endured as long as it has, because it gives you all of those other great things, the action, the gore, and all of that. But it's these moments that are the things that make people come back over and over again, because we've got these characters that we love, and they are given scenes like this that are just beyond anything you see in other shows. And it's just, it's nice that they have, even though this episode sort of went kind of, it didn't go like super fast, but there was, it was like ratchet up, ratchet up, ratchet up, ratchet up, ratchet up. It was sort of climbing slowly up this ladder, and there was tension and all of that. It took a couple of minutes right in the middle of this tense episode to have this great moment. And it was lovely. Yeah. It was really great that they did that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is you not only have these great actors, but you have these great actors that have been playing these characters for a number of years now, and they know the characters, right? They know who these people are, which really allows them to dig into the scripts with how do I take these words and make them seem like they're coming from this character. Oh, I can do that because I already know who this character is, and that just makes it even better.
Yeah.
And again, who would have thought? I mean, Kari Payton and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, their initial characters were kind of, I mean, I'm not going to say they were like one-dimensional, but they were kind of like that in a way. And yet, look at how deep both of those characters have become.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I totally agree. So, man, we've talked about this scene for like 20 minutes now, but it was that good, and folks, we know, like we jibber jabber and we go on and on and on for, especially when there's a good episode. So, expect, obviously you're within the middle of this, so obviously it's longer, but it'll be this way for the next week one too. It's just giving these people their due and making sure, we talk through and like we were saying, like, I looked at that scene a certain way. You had a perspective that was slightly different, and I see that, and your perspective makes sense as well. And I just, that's what happens when you talk things through.
I know.
To spend 20 minutes on one scene that was like 3 in the
it was a 3-minute scene, but man, was it powerful.
It really was. They sort of pivot from that to Princess finally makes it through to Mercer. There's you get like a Mercer moment. He's with Yumiko, whatever. Then they're like, oh, there's a call for you. And so he clears out his office and he gets on the line, and it's Princess. And I was wondering about something. I didn't notice it the first time, but the second time through, I noticed when he's like, where are you? And she's like, I'm on a train on my way to you. And his reaction to her saying the train, he seemed surprised. Is that, do you think he was surprised she was on the train, or was he surprised that there's a train?
Oh, I thought he was surprised there's a train.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I was thinking about it because, remember when the group first got to the Commonwealth, they were like in a train yard in train cars.
Yeah.
So, clearly they have access to that stuff. So it does seem a little weird. On the one hand, it seems weird that he wouldn't know that the Commonwealth has trains that they're using to move supplies around and stuff, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, you really get the sense that Hornsby had a lot of stuff going on that was not on the books.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this proves it. I think we'll find out more and more, now that he's in custody, that he'll be like, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Oh God, wait till he finds out about B-17. He's gonna go crazy. But
please, Mister, please.
But I think that was a really great way to sort of like, it's keeping the plot moving. He had his own little moment internally where it's like, train. Like, how is there a working train that I don't know about? I'm head of security for this huge community that
General
has
of
trains.
The Army. Yeah.
What the hell?
That has trains that are like staffed and run by your troops.
Yeah. So there's again a whole other faction they must be Hornsby controlled. But it's just crazy that there's this whole side of the Commonwealth that he just was kept in the dark about. So I really hope that part of next week's episode is sort of revealing all of this stuff that he just had no idea was going on. And I think that's gonna affect him, because I think he's gonna feel like, did I close my eyes to it? Because he's aware of some stuff that's gone on, not like deep details, but he knows it's pretty rotten there, and he just does his best to make sure people are safe and that there's no laws broken and all that other stuff. But I'm wondering if he's going to feel some regret, like, did I turn too much of a blind eye to the little things I was aware about? Maybe if I'd pushed harder, a lot of this wouldn't have happened. So I think they're going to lean into that a little bit next week too. That'll be interesting to see. We do, after this great scene with Mercer and Princess, we then go to
you're skipping the best part, because she asks him at the end, she's like, are you okay with us taking out Pamela? And he kind of looks at the mic and goes, yeah.
That was the sneak peek scene last week on Talking Dead.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. And it was great because it revealed a lot, and that's why I didn't want to talk about it. Sure. They're on the train coming back. Princess is okay. That he finds out that Princess is okay. So, but when they was he on the episode? No, it was Kari and Josh were on the episode, and they show that clip, and they were already talking about how Mercer had already they were talking about the scene in their episode where he's like, time to fuck shit up. Yeah. And when he does that with Josh, and they had just finished talking about that, and then they show the clip, and he's like, yeah. It's just like so deep and whatever. And they were both like, their reactions were hilarious. They were like, he's amazing.
Oh yeah.
He's so cool, and he's so like manly and grr and all that. It was adorable. It was so funny.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an important scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes me think of Coming to America, not Coming to America, Trading Places when Eddie Murphy's in the jail, and he's like, you came in here, you was crying like a baby, and the guy behind him, yeah. Hilarious. Anywho,
get out. Let's get out. We gotta give Lydia a hand here. Come on.
Gotta give Lydia a hand here. Oh, was that that's too soon, right?
Too soon? Too soon? I don't know. What is too soon anymore? There's one episode left, people.
I know, right? It's not enough time. Never mind. Too soon. Not enough time. So we then get the great scene of our crew by the RV, trying to get away from the horde. They move over to the RV. They're just trying to get in. And some of them get in and some of them don't. And when they start to get a little swept away in the tide of the walkers, Lydia freaks out that Elijah can't get in there, and she reaches out with her arm. Silly Lydia. I know. I'm pretty sure you can trace all sort of like silly, like I wasn't thinking moments in the zombie apocalypse to, you know, I love my kid. I did something stupid, even though I know this was stupid. I love my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my whatever. Like people thinking with their heart instead of thinking logically. And she just was not thinking logically. She knows better. She reaches out with her arm.
She's a teeny bopper. What do you expect?
So young. She reaches out with her arm to try and pull Elijah in, and there's just not enough guts on her. She's acting too human, and Walker immediately is like, lunch. Thank you.
I will have a hamburger.
Yeah. It was more like a tibia burger,
That's
I would
true.
say.
Yeah. And
Tibia,
right.
fibula, whatever. Forearm burger, if you will. And so he takes a nice big chunk out of Lydia's arm, and meanwhile, she knows she's bit. They immediately grab her to pull her back inside. It's Aaron and Jerry who made it inside the RV.
Jerry.
We already saw Luke and Jules get kind of swept away.
Yep. And
they couldn't quite make it to the door, and Elijah then gets swept away, and he just, he's got to go. There's a sea of walkers, and to do anything else means he would be bit too. But yeah. Lydia is distraught over the fact that Elijah couldn't make it into the RV and is yelling and screaming. And now what's great is now they've got walkers surrounding the RV and are like banging on the windows and doing their usual. Which thankfully the soldiers are clearly way up ahead, because they don't ever come and check that. That was something that scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh, great. The soldiers are going to turn around. They're going to come back and be like, what's going on in here? Why are they distracted by this RV? Is there someone in here that we need to go investigate? So I was the whole time, obviously I'm freaked out because Lydia just got bit and our people just got swept away and they're still in with the Walker horde and there's so much going on. And on top of it, I'm like, great. The soldiers are going to come back there and try and investigate what's going on in this RV, because all of a sudden these walkers are all of a sudden distracted by the RV, which must mean someone's inside. So I'm like, what's going to happen? But the scene inside the RV was just, it was just some of the, I mean, I've seen some really great scenes with Cassidy McClincy on this show. She's so, it's so interesting because she's so out there and so energetic and so like ridiculously positive and so happy and energetic to see people. And she can just like pull herself down and do these really great emotion-filled scenes on the show. And she never ceases to amaze me. She's just a really talented actress, and she just did a great scene here. And between her and Aaron and then Jerry with the backup there, it was just so great. They're immediately like, as soon as they get inside, Jerry starts I noticed it the second time through. Jerry starts taking his belt off because he knows we got to tie it off. We got to cut it. We got to do it right now.
Yep.
And so he gives her the belt, and she knows what they got to do. They're like, listen, we'll get Elijah. We got to do this right now. You know it, and we know it. And she's smart, and she knows. So they literally.
But initially, she doesn't want to. She's like, we got to go get Elijah.
And they basically have to sort of like shake it into her. No, we can't. We can't have to do this right now, and you know that.
Yeah, and she says, I don't care. He goes, we got to deal with your arm. She's like, I don't care. We got to get Elijah. And then
they're really good. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, they say, look, Luke and Jules and Elijah, they know what they're doing. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Which, maybe, but,
maybe. And he makes a really good point where he's like, she's like, we need to get Elijah. She's like, we will get Elijah. We got to make sure that she's like, I can't lose him. And he's like, he can't lose you.
Right.
So he really sort of broke through that cloud for her to be like, we got to take care of this now, and then we'll go get Elijah, because we want to make sure he has someone to come to. That's more important. And they're prepping. She's moaning. She takes the belt, puts it around her upper arm, and is pulling it tight with her teeth. But she's also like biting down on the leather of the belt.
She's biting the bullet, right? I mean, literally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And so she's prepping, and the moment I was like, why am I watching this on the treadmill? What is wrong with me? And I'm like, oh my God, Lydia. And then Aaron, he's like, you'll be fine. And he makes the comment about how he's like, it happened to me and I did okay, right? And I like your point that you made about it, which is apples, oranges, different.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit different, crushed arm and bit arm, different.
Yeah. Totally,
but anyways,
two different things, yeah.
But he's still just trying to make her feel better. He's doing what he can. And
right.
He's like, I did okay and it's fine and you'll bounce back and you'll be great. And then he takes a moment and he says something that I'm not sure Lydia has ever heard these words. Oh my God, I'm getting misty thinking about it. He looks her dead in the eye and he says, Lydia, you are so loved. It was amazing. What a simple line. And it's a very Aaron line. That's totally something Aaron would say to somebody and would care about how they feel and things like that. From day one, he's been that guy. I think back to that moment he had with Maggie when she was still looking for Glenn. And he was the first person that knew that Maggie was pregnant. And she told him. So he's always been that guy, that empathetic guy. And this was no different. And he knew that she needed to know that people loved her in that moment. That it's not just Elijah. Elijah loves her and she loves him, but she is loved by others. And it would be a loss for them to lose Lydia. And that's why they're working so hard to try and save her in this moment. They care about her and care about her love for Elijah, but he's trying to say, like, this isn't your mom. Like, we love you. You are one of us. You are so loved. And it was just, it pierced my heart. It was so lovely. And after that moment, and then Jerry's like, sorry, dude.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what I love. He goes, you're so loved. Jerry, cut her arm off.
Yeah. You are totally loved.
And hack away.
But on top of being loved, you're also gonna be short one arm.
You're going to be joining the one arm club. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of that, I made a point on Twitter, where I made a comment about how, because someone pointed out, they were like, they showed a picture of Ross and Merle and Alicia, and they're like, Lydia joins the one arm club, right? She joins. It's a very exclusive club, and now she's a member. Well, I shared that on our Twitter page, and I said, like, when we were at a convention some months back and Ross was there and we had a chance to chat with him about a couple of different things. It's when we got our little drop from him this year. And we said to him, because it had just happened on Fear, we're like, well, you might be the president, but there are new members of the One Arm Club in the Walking Dead universe.
Well, it happened on Fear and World Beyond, because Elton had his arm cut off too.
That's right. So both of those had happened, and we didn't say anything about who it was at first, but he was a little like taken aback for a second.
Yeah, he's like, who?
Because he wasn't sure. He's like, who? And I wonder if he already knew about the Lydia thing and was like,
oh,
because he said he wasn't up to date when we said, oh, Alicia. And he was like, oh, I'm not up to date on, he hadn't been watching Fear. And we're like, dude, we don't blame you.
Yeah.
And we did And we did make the comment about World Beyond as well, and we're just like, oh, now there's each show has somebody and da 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 da. But his reaction at the time was very odd, and we were both like, oh no, it's just Alicia, and he's like, oh okay, I'm surprised she didn't tell me, and da 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 da, and he went off on this other thing.
I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to send her a message or whatever he said.
Yeah, but his initial reaction was like, huh,
maybe.
And so I wonder, like, if they hadn't already filmed that scene yet, if maybe they'd seen the script for it, maybe he knew or whatever. I don't know. I think that to me sort of connected a few dots from that reaction that day to today.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm wondering. So if we get a chance to chat with him again, we'll have to say, like, dude, you reacted this way, and we didn't think of anything at the time. But then Lydia happened, and like, did you already know about Lydia? And maybe da da da. And I don't know. We'll have to ask him. But yeah, I shared that with our Twitter feed, so I hope other people thought that is funny and interesting. So.
Well, what I think is interesting is that, the only one I'm not sure of is Merle, but everyone but him, it's the left arm. Which I think is a weird coincidence that people are only getting their left arms bitten and not their right arms. So
yeah, they're getting rid of the non-dominant arm so that they can still fight.
Well, maybe they were all left-handed and they were reaching with it because it is their dominant arm, and then it got bitten. You don't know.
Maybe. But the scene is already a tearjerker. You're already a mess. You come back to the scene in a bit, and here's Lydia, who's obviously, she's lost blood, and she's like, we gotta go look for them, and they're like, we will, but you're weak right now, and we gotta whatever. And Jerry's like, I got it, and he's like, I'll go do it, and so Jerry like volunteers to leave the RV.
Mm-hmm.
And go look for Elijah for her.
Yeah.
And he's like backing out of the RV, and his last thing he says is he's like, see you on the flip side. And I'm like,
the other side.
Jerry.
Yeah, he says see you on the other side, not the flip side.
And I'm like, no, Jerry. I really hope that's not our last time seeing Jerry.
That was my thought too. My comment was, you better not die, Jerry.
It would be really interesting if they decided to, because obviously when the horde hits the Commonwealth and it comes up against our people and da da da, and there's that scene and whatever, and Jules and Luke come running out because they were obviously closer to the front because they were the first ones that got sort of swept away out of there, and Elijah would have been a little further back, but we know Jules and Luke made it okay, but would it be interesting if like Elijah and Jerry just sort of stumbled out and they were already walkers?
Yeah, they could go that route. Yeah, it would be horrific, but yeah, it could be.
Yeah, it would be horrific. I mean, I don't want to see that, but I'm just saying, like, is that a possibility?
It could be, yeah.
Maybe.
I thought it was really fun when Jerry's like, yeah, sure, I'll go. I'll go find them. Then I'll find you, and it'll all work out. It's just sort of like, yeah, sure, no big deal.
Yeah, there's no reason why this won't work. Yeah, definitely. This has a high percentage value of succeeding.
Well, what does he say? He goes, pizza cobbler.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, Jerry, you're just so cute. We better see you again.
You better not die, Jerry. Again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so we skipped a scene there because you get this scene before that where the stormtroopers are leading well, at this point, Mercer has sent out a couple of his guys in jeeps to kind of like try and get the herd lead it away from Alexandria.
Yeah.
And my comment or observation was, it doesn't matter what universe we're talking about, whether it's Star Wars or here or whatever, stormtroopers are just dumb in that the two guys are driving around with the jeep and like they're kind of leading a part of the horde, and then they come up and there's suddenly another part of the horde that's on their, like, the passenger side of their jeep, and a ghoul like grabs onto the back of the Jeep and climbs in, and neither of them notice. Neither of them turn around. Neither of them are observing anything. And I'm just like, you guys deserve to get eaten.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I just that and when you couple that with the scene on the gate on the wall where there's like one dude up there and he is completely blind to what's going on around him because a ghoul climbs up behind him and eats him. I'm just like, you guys are terrible. It's like, how did you get this job? But anyway, I just wanted to make that point that those two guys in the Jeep were just the most unaware. Given their situation, you'd think that your head would be on a swivel, right? That you'd be looking all directions, but no, not them. They're just trying to find a good song on the radio. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, they're just not good at being soldiers.
No,
not at all. We do from the so we get the troopers, the RV scene, and then we get
back to the Commonwealth.
The big grand finale is this whole comes to a head, all of this stuff that's happening in the Commonwealth. So the ghouls are bearing down on the Commonwealth. Our friends get there in the train. They're supposed to meet Mercer, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So Mercer takes his soldiers away, and they just find a way to sort of break in to go into this. It's an access tunnel that's supposed to lead to the Union Station. It's an unused access tunnel. So this is happening. That's happening. We've got. Eugene is in his little, place where he's hunkering down, and they're doing like an apartment by apartment search. He lets them in, he knocks them out. There's that action happening there. Pamela also is being told, the ghouls they're climbing the walls. They're climbing the walls, and her reaction to that is save the rich people and direct the horde toward where the poor people live.
Right. So it'll buy you time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fantastic. That's definitely what I would expect from Pamela Milton in this moment. She's great. So there's all of that. That happens a little later. Sorry. Because first we get the big scene at Union Station. So they come out of this, they're making their way, and they finally get to the end. They get to Union Station, and something's wrong. Even Daryl's like, something's not right here. Something's not right. And then they show the doors, and the doors are all locked shut from the inside, so you can't get out. So people can't get in and save you either, but also they can't get out. They're sort of stuck. And our pal Tyler, the red shirt, he put that red shirt on while they were on the train. We just didn't see it. It was under his sweater. But then he steps right out into the middle, and he's like, where I forget what he says, but he says something loud, which is really stupid. He wasn't a good soldier, is basically not good at being, don't look at me or whatever. He said something out loud, and I can't remember what it was, but it was basically something like, where is everybody? Or hello, anyone here? And they're like, yeah, we're here. We have guns. Bye-bye. And they just start mowing people down. And we've got, so Tyler gets taken out. There's a couple of other red shirts with him, some unnamed people that get taken out. All of our people sort of go to the edges, and they're trying to stay out of the way. And, there's a few moments here and there where there's like, this person's in danger and that person's, pinned down and all this other stuff. And, and then there's this pivotal moment where Pamela comes out. She comes out to see. She's must have it in her head. I'm thinking this. Her motivation has got to be, I want to see them all get taken out. Mm-hmm. I want to see this happen or whatever. So she comes out inexplicably, and she's out there with these Black Ops guys that are like mowing everybody down. And someone gets off a good shot and kills one of the guys that's right next to her, and she reaches down and she grabs his gun. And she's a pretty good shot. She not that she'll ever get to shoot a gun ever again, probably. to this moment. But she's got her gun out. She got a good shot. She aims, and what happens is she's aiming for Maggie.
Daryl.
And no, it was Maggie.
No, she's
Pushes
aiming for
Maggie out of the
Daryl because Judith pushes Daryl out of the way.
Are you sure? I really
That's
could.
what I
Maybe
saw.
Maybe it was the hair. I saw the long hair. But regardless, Judith pushes someone out of the way, and she takes the shot because Daryl / Maggie, whomever it is, they're about to get shot. She sees it. She pushes them out of the way, and she gets the shot. And everybody's reaction is basically like, it's crazy. It's almost like they were watching Rick die all over again in a way. Excuse me. And it's all action after that. Immediately, Maggie, Carol, everybody, it's all gunshots at Pamela. She's like a hail of bullets. They're like, I don't care if you hit me with a bullet. You are going to die because you shot Judith.
That's right.
And as she's backing up, she has this moment where she's like, you did this.
That's right. It's your fault.
Yeah, just like ultimate like drama queen gaslighter in the all the way to the end. And they're just like, Judith, wake up, wake up, wake up. And then there's this really great, like, I'm sorry, not so great, but very, hey, let's do this really cool thing. It was a very Fear the Walking Dead. I've always wanted to see this happen in a fight scene. So let's do it because it'll work for this. So they want to have some kind of cover to be able to get out of there. So Daryl indicates to Ezekiel there's a fire extinguisher on the wall, and he nods at it, and he's like, throw it. So he takes the fire extinguisher, and he like swings and swings and hurls it up in the air. And Daryl takes Rick's 6-shooter out of Judith's holster, and he shoots, and he direct hit, and it explodes the fire extinguisher everywhere. So there's like dust and powder from the extinguisher all over the place. And give them cover so that they can get out of there.
Sure.
And then they retreat. And then it's on Donkey Kong because they're trying to get to the clinic. Ezekiel's trying to get them over to the clinic to try and save Judith, give her some kind of medicine. And then at the same time, then all of these hordes are like are coming in, and we get the scene with Pamela where she's like, no, lead them to the wards, don't, and because she's got like the blood on her face and she's like trying to like totally Hamlet, like out damn spot, like trying to get the blood off her face. That was a fun moment. And then she's like, lead them away from the estates, send them down to the wards. And then we've got this great scene where we see our people trying to retreat, and they come up against, they're like, oh god, they're not following us. And then it becomes clear they're penning them in, and they're sending the horde in to where they are. Oh boy. And they're like, can we get a win just like for a hot second, can we just go down this alleyway? Is that all right? It's fine. Can we get some medical care for this 10-year-old that's dying in my arms? And so that happens. We've got the horde is advancing. They're trying to like sort of find a way through to get to the clinic. In the meantime, Luke and Jules all of a sudden are like, hey, and they just sort of fall out of they jump ahead of the horde and join the crew. Then they're all sort of like making their way down an alleyway. They're trying to push back the horde as best they can to get to the specific section of the alleyway where the clinic is. And Daryl makes it through. He's the one carrying Judith. And then we've got this great sort of final moment where Judith wakes up a little bit. She looks up at Daryl and she says, Daddy? There's a couple other great moments during the the horde sort of coming in, and it was really cool. But that sort of like is the end of the action is there. But let's see, what do we miss? Oh, of course, jeez, they see them climbing. and they're as the horde is advancing on them, there's one in particular that climbs up and over something, and Negan speaks for everybody when he says, "What the fuck?" Like, what is happening here?
Yeah, well, this is this group's first look at one of these different ghouls. So yeah.
Yeah. So my question I asked too was, we just talked a little bit about that, but Luke and Jules kind of magically made it to the front of the horde. So, maybe Elijah and Jerry, like, I said the thing about the ghouls, but maybe they'll make their way to the front and they can help them in this battle. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. There's also yeah. And anything else that I'm jumped over that we want to make sure we talk about? Because I have a couple of like sort of talking points that I want to do, but I just wanted to hit on those last few sort of action moments there. For me, like Union Station, I don't know about you, it felt a little, like I said, it was a little contrived, but they sort of had to have a moment that had all of those flavors in there where something bad happens to make everybody sort of universally hate Pamela. And she has to do something that is irredeemable, because it's like there's defending my town and there's, Eugene committed a crime, but there's no reason to shoot down 10-year-old girls. So I see that those sort of, wheels had to turn to get us to a place where she's universally hated. I felt like it was the only sort of weak part of the episode to me, was the Union Station sort of setup was kind of a little bit lame, and some of the action was a little bit lame. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it wasn't so much the location was bad. It was that these people would just fall for this trap the way they did.
Right.
It's something we say a lot, mostly when we're talking about fear, in that, these people, they know better.
Yeah, that's true.
And they know better than to just go barging, in and have everybody run into an open area like that, particularly when, like, Daryl looks right away and he sees that all the doors are like chained shut.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, if that isn't a red flag, and they're already, I mean, Daryl's already like, something's wrong, So, I mean, and then for them all to just go running right in there, it didn't feel real. It didn't be like, no, you guys wouldn't do that. You're way too smart for that. You'd send somebody in first to check it out, and so yeah, I think that was like the one misstep of the episode, was just, it was like, and it almost was a situation of, like you said, they gotta, like, get things going, and so it's like, look, we have to have this confrontation with Pamela. Pamela has to do the, twirling her mustache moment, and shoot Judith to really set up she's really got it coming now. And this was the way that they just figured, fine, this is what we'll do. So I totally agree. It was weak, and it could have been done better, but this is what we got.
Yeah. I want to make sure. I feel like we hit most of our thoughts, and we can double back on things that we think we didn't hit in a second. But the Judith thing is, I think, the thing that's gonna rear up the Wrath versus Mercy thing, because I think they're gonna be placed in a position where they have to choose between killing Pamela and not killing her. And I think whoever has the gun and whoever's doing the pleading, like, don't do this, don't kill her, it's the wrong thing, we need to teach people a lesson, this isn't what Rick would want, this isn't what Carl would want, or whatever. And maybe it's Judith who does that, but considering what happened, we can't be sure. Even if she survives, maybe she's not even conscious, we don't know. But I think the Wrath and Mercy thing will happen with Pamela. They're going to choose Mercy, and she'll end up in jail the rest of her life for everything. She'll have to think about all the things she's done. And it'll be sort of like a repeat of those things that Rick and Michonne decided to do, and whether, Judith is at the head of that. Maybe RJ is the one who makes that call. We don't know. But yeah, I think that's the reason why the Wrath and Mercy thing was brought up, is because they're going in the next episode to have a moment where they're going to have to choose between those things for Pamela. And they're going to go with Mercy because Judith is her father's daughter.
Shane?
So, yeah. Shane totally would have gone Mercy.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of Mercy.
You know Shane, because yes, that is exactly how he handled every situation.
Yeah. Shane, you look up Wrath in the dictionary and Shane's shaved head is there.
Oh my goodness.
Right next to it. Yeah.
Or John Bernthal. Yep.
I know. I'm hoping we'll see him next Sunday. I hope they bring
Judith
him in
did?
Yeah. Yeah. She saw her daddy. So yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think we're gonna see a Wrath Mercy moment with Pamela, or do you think it's over, like Pamela's done for? No matter what.
Yes and yes. I think what's gonna happen is our people will have the chance to do her in, and they will not. Mm-hmm. And then Pamela, in like true Day of the Dead style, will take that the olive branch they hand her and throw it in their face and try and make a getaway, and she'll open a door and there'll be 100 ghouls there, and they literally will just rip her into like 9 pieces, and it'll be like Rhodes at the end of Day of the Dead, right, where they're just like pulling her intestines out, and she'll be like, choke on them, Yeah. That's what I'm expecting. So she's gonna get hers, but it's going to be not our people. Our people were going to be like, no, we didn't kill her. We wanted to give her a chance.
Yeah.
And she just ran into the horde, and maybe it'll be someone in the horde she knows. Maybe it'll be Hornsby. Maybe he'll be the one leading the charge that will take a big chunk out of her or something. But yeah, that I don't think, at a minimum, I don't think they're gonna kill her. I think that they will find the angels of their better nature and keep her alive. But again, she'll have to face what she did, and that'll be she'll basically be like the new Negan and be living in the basement cell somewhere for a while. Yeah. And that kind of thing. That's my guess. I think they like you said, they wouldn't have brought up the whole Wrath Mercy thing. They wouldn't have showed Judith take out the old charter parchment at the beginning and roll it up and take it with her, unless they wanted to make that point that our people are fighting for a better world, right? And all of that. So I think all of those things kind of point to when the moment comes and someone can take out Pamela, they won't.
Yeah. Sort of touching on that same vein, I forgot to talk about it in the beginning, but one of the things that Judith talks about, you said the charter, and it reminded me of the things she was doing in the narrated opening, and one of them was the charter, and she was looking through a couple of other things here and there, but she brought up, she's like, there's a secret saying that my mom and dad had that they would say to each other, and and I'm thinking we need to say that again. And they never say what it is, but it's got to be, we're the ones who live.
No, I thought it was Wakanda forever.
No, she says that in another life. That's a different life where she gets to be a Wakandan general of war or whatever.
Well, wouldn't the saying then be, we are the Walking Dead? Didn't they say that?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's something it seems like it's something that's important to Rick and Michonne, the way that Judith said it. She's like, they had a secret thing they would say to each other. And I think that it's that line, or it's something similar that they would say to each other, but it's got to be something along the lines like, we are the ones who live. And I think taking that and pairing it with the Wrath and Mercy thing and the charter and her, Carol saying the stuff about you're looking towards the future, that's important. And it doesn't, and I know, like, as soon as they start doing that kind of stuff, you're asking for someone to die.
Yep.
And that's possible. But I think, could she hand those things to somebody else and go, this is what you need to do. Follow this, do this, and this is the dream that my dad had. Make it happen. You know what I mean?
Maybe the saying was, shut the hell up, Andrea.
I mean, it could be. Because they both had opportunity to say that to Andrea.
Oh, you think, yeah.
Right. Yeah. We didn't talk too about the symbolism of Judith gives the sheriff hat to RJ before she leaves.
Yeah.
So that's not a good sign. I still ultimately feel like Judith is probably okay, but I think they're going to toy with our emotions a little bit and make us feel like she's, on the chopping block, as it were. But I think ultimately she'll be okay. But I think they're gonna let us worry about it for a bit in the episode before they sort of resolve it. Mm-hmm. What about you? Do you think she's done for, or she's okay?
No, that again, TV in general, the rule of thumb is TV shows don't really kill kids. That's just, it's not a crowd pleaser. So, not that it can't happen. And obviously in The Walking Dead, we have had it happen. The Look at the Flowers gang and so on. But it's rare. And it's never a character like Judith that is clearly a fan favorite. And, I don't want to say, you never say never. I just think the odds are unlikely. Really, really high that it's not going to happen just because of all those things. So
I'm still very surprised to see her get shot, though. That's really not where I thought that whole scene was. Heading.
Well, I mean, I kind of had a sense of this. We got to put Judith on high up on the list when she's like, "No, I'm coming with you." And Daryl's like, all right, but you stay right by my side. I'm like, well, this either she's going to get lost or, something bad could happen to her because Daryl didn't, say, no, you can't go.
Right.
But yeah, again, it's going to be one of those TV wounds that,
for sure.
That it's going to look bad. And like you said, probably going to toy with our emotions and have the whole, she might not make it, and then she'll make it,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Anything else? We talked about so many things, so many long topics, and jumped around a little bit. Is there anything that
we didn't talk about Mercer got arrested.
That's true. Yep.
So
that's important.
So he's removed from command, so a big part of their plan is now not happening. Right. But I think that the fact that there are now ghouls inside the Commonwealth, it might be one of those things where he gets let out of jail to like lead the troops because they need someone that they'll follow. And I don't think that Colonel Vickers is that person. Because again, he had a considerable number of guys that were already on his side, right? Because when they come to arrest him, a bunch of his guys all put their guns up, right? And he's like, lower your weapons kind of a thing. So I think that is a possibility, but he is certainly not out, trying to defend the city at this point. So that's something to keep an eye on. How is that going to play out? I loved as much of an idiot as that trooper was. I loved the bite that the ghoul gives him and just rips that big chunk of flesh, and you get the stretchy, tearing skin. I mean, that was beautiful. I did think it was a little cliche that like the stormtrooper gets bit. And then as he's falling down, his hand like hits the conveniently placed lever that opens the gate. I was like, oh, come on. And I also thought it was really bad writing that why is there only one stormtrooper on the wall? Why aren't there like 100 stormtroopers shooting at the horde as they're marching up to the gate? You know what I mean? It's just, it seemed to me that they did not, they had zero, it's like they were completely unprepared for this eventuality, of like, oh my God, the ghouls are like right there. Huh. What do we do? So I thought that was a little bit bad writing, but I definitely saw when the gate opens and the ghouls kind of spill forward. I thought that was a little nod of the cap to the elevator scene in Romero's Day of the Dead, when all the ghouls are on the elevator and then it comes down, and of course the guys that are down in the bunker see it and they're like, oh no. So I mean, I saw that. I would love to hear from Greg Nicotero or somebody who is obviously very intimately familiar with Day of the Dead, and see if any of that was going on. Other than that, we got more variants, right? More ghouls climbing the walls and getting in, which was new. And then we kind of briefly touched on it. I just again, if we needed more evidence that Pamela isn't a good person, her first thought is to protect the rich people.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And all of the 99%, let's just call them.
Yes.
They can just rot. They're on their own. They don't love her, so clearly, they gotta, whatever happens to them happens to them. And even it was funny because even like Colonel Vickers was like having a hard time with that one. Like, really? Yeah. We're just gonna leave? And she's like, yeah, screw them. So again, Pamela's kind of burning bridges all over the place here. So we'll have to see how long will her people stay loyal to her. When is that moment going to happen when they're like, yeah, this goose is cooked, we're going to join the other side?
Yeah. I'm curious to see. And will it include like that upper crust, that wealthy set? Will they be like, well, she always had our best interests at heart, she was always looking out for us, and so I'm curious how that'll roll out. And then
I don't know, I kind of got that something that you said about the end there, where they're running through the streets, right? Because of course Eugene comes out and takes out the guard that's out front of the train station and opens the door, and so they get out and they're running down the street, and then the troopers show up and they're like setting up the barricades and stuff. And was it your impression that the troopers were like trying to pen in our people?
Yes, that's what it seemed like. It seemed like they were. It was sort of like a kill two birds with one stone. I think they were putting up blockades to direct the traffic toward the wards, the poor people areas. But right. I think that and I think the clinic is near that area. I think because it serves that constituency. So I think that they are effectively blocking off any access to other parts of the Commonwealth. And the bonus is they're like, it looks like some people that are, there's some, because they called when the swarm came. That's the thing too. The B-17 does two things. It gets the people off the street, as well as it gets the swarm coming towards there. So it directs all of the people's energies towards the swarm, and distracts from whatever she's doing. But it also gets everybody off the street. So when they see that there's other people on the street, they're like, well, you were told that there was a swarm coming. And whether they know those are the people that were just at Union Station or not, it doesn't matter. They're effectively like taking them out by closing things off, because they could just as easily like shoot them, but they won't waste the bullets. I don't know. I don't know. They definitely were definitely penning in the walkers.
Yeah. See, I kind of took it that those troopers, they had no clue that our people were there. They weren't part of that. They were doing what Pamela, like you said, had ordered. They were trying to direct the flow of the horde towards the areas that she doesn't care about, and our people just kind of happened to be right there. When it kind of like, and again, whether they were our people or just any civilians, the soldiers weren't going to care. They were setting up the barricades and doing what they needed to do. And if you happen to get caught on the other side, too bad.
Yeah, you've been trained, you've been told.
Yeah,
to stay
you shouldn't have been on the street anyway, right? It's your fault. So yeah, I mean, that was my take on that. I didn't necessarily think that it was they're trying to like herd the group into a certain area. I think it was like no, they're just trying to set up these defenses as quickly as they can because the swarm is around the corner. So
right, yeah, that's true. It's sort of a nice happy accident that they're able to also possibly take out a bunch of insurrectionists.
Yeah, right.
You know, rabble rousers, as it were, at the same time. So
yeah,
they'll get a gold star and maybe an extra lottery ticket the next time around.
Ooh, well, we all know that that's on the up and up.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the few things that Pamela does that is on the up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think?
I totally think so. Yeah.
All right, so we have talked. My
God, we're over 2 hours and we haven't done feedback yet.
I know we haven't even done feedback yet. This is crazy. This is crazy pants. So anything else about the episode itself that we should discuss?
No, let's get this going, man.
I know we gotta. So that being said, folks, damn, we gotta get out of here. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to quickly discuss our listener feedback and what's coming up on the podcast.
So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey there, Internet. Do you like scary movies? What about going way off the rails while discussing your favorites, like Nightmare on Elm Street?
Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you look
Can you
fine.
see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Summer?
Tell us what you're seeing.
Friday the 13th.
She's like, you're driving this whole thing, so it's like you're either gonna steer us to safety or you're gonna careen us all up to our death.
Either way, I'm
I
fine
can see
with
Summer doing a barrel roll out of a car now.
I know. Down a cliff, down some fields.
Halloween.
Exactly. Tom. And that mustache and that butt.
Oh my God.
And more. Trust me when I say that there's no movie that we can't derail right off the cliff. So come check out the Dolls of Horror podcast with your hosts, Girl on Gore Jamie and Summer of Fear. And me, producer Jesse, as we tackle all the horror movies, both new and old, and hopefully give you a laugh or two along the way. The Dolls of Horror is available on all podcast streaming services, including Apple and Spotify. Visit thedollsofhorror.com for more information.
The following is an emergency action message. Civil authorities have identified a biological threat that they deem credible. This threat could potentially affect the entire continental United States.
The dead are returning to life and attacking the living.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man off the bed and he's attacking another man. Looks like he's biting him, like on the arm.
The initial signs are puzzling, unclear.
Getting pulled out of their cars and thrown to the ground. It looks like the bus passengers are biting their victims.
Soon, however, the reality is clear and undeniable.
The crisis involving the recently dead continues. Parliament today passed a law that requires all bodies of the recently deceased to be registered and turned
Toxic
over.
Bag Productions has captured the sounds of the zombie apocalypse and brought them to your gaming table. Background ambiances, zombie attacks, and radio transmissions that set the scene for your modern zombie adventure. Download MP3s from DriveThruRPG.com or ToxicBag.com.
Hey, this is Patricia Tallman, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. Don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work, and I should know.
Hey everybody, we are back. As always, thanks a million to the lovely and talented Patricia Tallman for recording that for us. Thanks so much, Patricia. It was such a pleasure to talk with you back when we did, and it was so lovely of you to record that little spot for us. So thanks again.
Yes.
All right, so first thing we're going to do is jump into our listener feedback, and Steve and I are we're doing a little presto changeo, and this week I'm going to go first.
Ladies first.
I don't even know what to do with myself right now.
On this almost the last episode.
We waited until the end. So first up, we have, as always, we've got an email from our pal Andy from Germany. Hey, Andy. How
Hello, Andy.
So Andy writes in and he says, "Hi, Diana and Steve. great podcast and great episode this time. Now, Andy's talking about last week's episode 22, which was Faith.
Faith. Yes.
And he says, great podcast and great episode this time for episode 22, full of action and story progress. I hope my email won't be too long. I almost forgot how good Angela Kang actually can be. Even if I dislike Negan, a brilliant redemption scene. Him willing to sacrifice his own life to, he says, to arouse the prisoners. But we're going to think he says to save the prisoners. So anyway.
Or to rile them up.
Rile up the prisoners so Ezekiel can start an insurrection. The first selfless deed ever of Negan. Question is, why do we get this over 50 episodes after Negan's redemption arc started with his downfall? Negan is becoming a good guy. The end is nigh. End is fucking nigh. He says, this is a quote. It says, "Let's make this shit steam," is how Mercer says it in the German version.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has to do with the translation or is that a poor German thing or
I don't know.
I don't even want to know how to interpret that. But thanks for letting us know what a weird translation that made. He says, I wasn't that excited about it because it was anyway clear that this was happening. But it's cool that suddenly everyone means business and we get no petty quarrels anymore. Nothing more of Pamela's stupid son or stupid minion annoying our people because they have nothing better to do. This gives me hope that at least the last 2 episodes will be a worthy finale for the series. Cross your fingers. Because clearly he's probably just now watching episode 23. I was actually spoiled about Luke's return. When I checked your website, if the new podcast is out, there was a Luke is back line in capitals that caught my eye. I'm so sorry.
Diana.
Yeah, I think I put that in the show notes, and I usually am not that explicit about things that are happening in the actual episodes. I apologize, and I will not be so explicit in this week's show notes. But in the end, his return is just an oddity. Maybe next episode, Virgil shows up.
Yeah, maybe, right? That dude's been missing.
I know, we haven't seen him yet. I completely missed that a walker picked up the knife. I thought someone of the group wanted to pass the knife to another one, and they used this trick so the walkers won't notice it. In hindsight, it seems strange that the troopers circled the herd in their jeeps. A jeep can topple over very easily, as we all know. They have definitely shown that it can topple over easily. That people are still rotten in the post-apocalypse, we already knew before the Commonwealth. At least 50% of the groups we met in the series were led by a psychopath, and even the normal leaders were sometimes rotten, like Gregory from Hilltop. I liked Gregory as an interesting character, but this works only for me if the situation is plausible, since we don't even know if Pamela is elected or on whatever her power is based. The power struggle is uninteresting. Well, that's true. Greetings from Germany, Andy. And then he puts a little postscript in saying, I didn't know Diana is a fan of the apocalypse genre. That's cool. It's my favorite genre.
Hey, pretty groovy.
It is. Thanks for writing in, Andy. I'm terribly sorry that I spoiled the Luke thing, and I will be better in my show notes. And
that's it. 50 lashes with a wet noodle.
Yeah, so clearly I can't say anything about the Judith stuff. I will just be vague and uninteresting and not try and snag people in. So there we go. So sorry about that, Andy, but thanks for writing in anyway, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on next week's episode, because I felt like this one, Faith, was a little bit weaker, and I feel like this week's episode was just so amazing that on episode 23, so I'm dying to find out what Andy thought of it. So can't wait to hear. Thanks again, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's, again, as usual, it's really, really interesting, great stuff. So way to go. Keep it up.
Yeah.
All right, so now we move on, and this feedback is for this episode for family.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from our pal Amelia. Amelia, the Bitchin' Boutique, I believe. And this came via the email, and she starts it off by saying, first, I gotta ask, because I'm pretty sure I'm older than you, when Pamela called for B-17, did either of you hear Olivia Newton-John sing Please, Mr. Please? I did, Amelia. I totally did, you know. That song is prominently in my iTunes, I'm happy to say. And then she goes on to say some of the lyrics. Don't play B-17. It was our song. It was his song, but it's over. And then she goes, no, just me. Okay, fine. Well, you know what, Amelia? It's not just you. It's us. So then. Then she goes on to say, again with Ezekiel and my Neegs. These scenes with Kari and JDM are incredible. Did any of us think we'd ever get another? And yet I smile. My king, all in caps, is how she said that. And again, we totally agree. That was the showstopper for this episode, without a doubt. She goes on to say, and I know we needed peril. I know I've been saying for like 6 episodes now, we need stakes and danger and somebody needs to die. But after these people have survived in the friggin' woods as long as they have, I'm not okay with such stupid, impulsive behavior in the middle of a herd. Circle around the damn RV and try the door again. Dog damn it, I was yelling. That's all in caps. But still, the arm chop scene was incredible. I love the three of them together, and I really love when Jerry gets to do hard things.
Yeah.
In fact, a big part of why this episode was so good was we got good Jerry and good Eugene. I love my big squishy Cooper and Josh. And then she goes on, and I can't even talk about the shootout. So many bullets flying and only one hit a target that mattered. How is Pamela still alive? Biatch gonna pay. And all that was in caps.
Yes.
And then she goes, I can't even ... I am utterly unable to even ... And then she goes, one more, you guys.
Just
and
one
so
more.
We're just like Aaron and Gabriel said last season, just one more. And yeah, Amelia, thank you for writing in. That's awesome. And I think a lot of us are right there with you in the roller coaster. And boy, I tell you, next week, man, what's gonna happen? I don't know,
but I really think I need to make "dog damn it" part of my everyday speech.
You add it to your vernacular.
Yeah, it might be a permanent part of vernacular.
At work, you should answer the phone that way.
Dog damn it.
Dog damn it. This is Diana.
That'd be great. I should totally do that.
I think you should.
Stealing it. Thank you, Amelia.
Yeah, thanks, Amelia.
Can't wait to hear from you. Can't wait to hear what you think about the finale. But we won't hear from you until after.
Yes.
We've been getting Amelia emails like trailing in the middle of the week or whatever.
Right.
But we're not going to hear from you until
not this week. That's right.
Yeah.
Not Sunday.
I know. All right. Thanks again, Amelia. Next up, we've got some Facebook that came in. Woo! Just under the wire.
That's right.
You were actually already recording when I got the notification. We got some feedback left by our pal, Alex Baelish. And Alex, I would be remiss if I didn't read your stuff because it's been like a week or so since we heard from you. So yeah. So anyway, so Alex writes in and says, I know I have not been writing in at all this last stretch, and I'm sorry. This has been so good, yet disappointing. I truly believe this has been one of the best seasons of The Walking Dead. I'm not saying it does not have its faults. I think as the end of the show, it does not feel like it's ending at a good place. Since they jumped the gun on all the new shows, it makes it so hard to not feel scared for our people. A lot of armor for some characters. They have all acted their butts off for so long. I can't believe it's over like this. Well, this episode had a lot of great stuff. We all love when they show everyone working together, and we have got a lot of this in the last run. Lydia has to be one of the best members of the group. The poor girl has had her downs. Has had her ups and her downs, and then more downs, and then up, followed by more downs. I need a drink just thinking of her story. I like that. I need a drink just thinking of her story. It's like, that's true. When you gotta stack people's trauma next to other people's trauma, Lydia kind of tilts the scale a little bit.
She got a lot of trauma.
She does. Then goes on to say, how amazing was Aaron and Jerry during all of this with her? I agree. It's not right that she got bit. We had to have some problems. We all knew it had. We all knew had it in him to do the right thing all along. His poker face and his love for his sister and princess is just. Oh, we all knew Mercer had it in him. He didn't put it in there. We all knew Mercer had it in him to do the right thing all along. His poker face and his love for his sister and princess is just yes. Now to the worst person in the Walking Dead universe, Pamela Milton. Ding, ding, ding. All she does is blame everyone but herself. She shoots Judith, but then blames her for it. Then only protects her rich people. Negan says it best, what the fuck, when seeing the walker climb. Awesome. Thanks for writing in, Alex. I'm so glad that we were able to get you in under the wire.
Yes,
So
that's awesome feedback,
thanks
man.
again,
That's
man.
really cool. And we're going to be expecting you to write in your thoughts for next week too. So there's no getting out of that test, mister.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, moving along. We got a post from our pal Alma Contreras. Hello, Alma. And
Alma.
this came via the Facebook. And she says, "Po Lydia." And she said Po, yes. P-O. Po Lydia.
She did.
She lost her arm.
So poor she couldn't afford the last O in the R.
And I know that she's an orphan.
I know.
Sorry. Anyway, she goes, she lost her arm and her boyfriend, and then she has the crying emoji. But at least she didn't get killed. I really love the scene where Aaron told her she was loved. I totally lost it. And then a scene of an emoji of even more crying face. And then she goes, I also really enjoyed the conversation between Negan and Ezekiel. I was feeling all the feels, but then again, I'm a Negan fan, and I do believe anyone is capable of true redemption. All in all, this episode was pretty good. And then she finishes by saying, OMG, I almost forgot. And then in all caps, she wrote, Judith! I'll be distraught if she doesn't make it. And yeah, I think distraught is a good word, although I think there are definitely the T-shirts are already being printed that say if Judith dies, we riot. So I think we're all right there with you. So yeah.
But I think like once you say like if this person dies, we riot, and you stack them all up against each other, then that means nobody can die. So it's like if Daryl dies, we riot. If Dog dies, we riot. If Carol dies, we riot. If Judith dies, we riot. If this person dies, we riot. I'm like, we're going to be doing a lot of rioting, people.
It's going to be some rioting,
yeah. Yeah, you got to deal with it.
But if we at least don't get too loud, it would be a quiet riot.
I see what you did there.
Come on, feel the noise. Anything?
No.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Is this thing on? Is this thing on?
Hello.
No. But nice try. All right. Thanks for writing in, Alma. We love hearing from you.
That's awesome.
Next up, it is Karen, not related to Lauren Cohen, via the Facebooks. And Karen wrote in and says, not Lydia. She bounced back pretty quickly for getting her arm chopped off. Jerry, go find your family. Elijah can work it out. Or he won't.
Or he won't.
Rosita is such a badass. I really wish they did more with her character. I bet Christian Serratos feels the same way. It's so frustrating that they continue to redeem that rapey, murdering, hella good-looking piece of shit. Tell us how you feel, Karen. I mean, it's difficult because he really is a terrible, terrible, terrible person, but he's just so attractive.
He's just dreamy.
Let's
just be honest, right?
Nothing you can do about it. He's a dreamy character, and he's also a bad boy. What can you do there? In the worst ways. A bad boy in all the worst ways. Not good ways, bad ways. Make sure it's clear. I'm not condoning the behavior. So she goes on to say, looking forward to the last episode. I doubt Judith dies, but she did pass off the hat to the nothing character that is RJ. Ouch. Wow. It's so funny to me that they give Judith and Daryl these father-daughter scenes, and when he says bye to RJ, just taps his chest and asks someone to watch him.
Yeah, well, everyone's got a favorite, right?
I know that's great. It's like, nah, you can't go. You can't go. Well, I'm going to have this really great scene with Judith, and it's great, and you're wonderful. And then it's like, all right, can you watch him? All right, great, bye.
Yeah. Somebody watch this other kid, will you? Yeah.
This other kid. I forget his name. What's your name again? Okay.
JR, come here.
JR Puffin stuff. Okay. That's hilarious, Karen. Thanks again for writing in.
That's funny. That's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Okay. Moving on. Our last piece of feedback here, I guess, is from our pal Bev2. So this is from across the pond in England. Hello, Bev.
Yes.
And she posted this via Facebook, and she says, "That was an amazing episode. So much happening at such a fast pace. I think the bite and shooting are red herrings, and we won't lose those two." So that would be Lydia and Judith. It feels like that was sleight of hand, and why you're concentrating on their fates will be other massive losses. Interesting. Could be. The last episode, I believe, will go against type for the show and have a lot of big deaths. That will mean even though our group saves the day, what they lose in the process means they'll never be the same. My predictions are, that we'll lose Gabriel, Rosita, and Coco, Stephanie, Magna, Kelly, and possibly Aaron. Wow.
Wow.
That is a lot of people, even though Coco isn't really a character, but wow, that's a lot of people.
7 people.
It seems like too many, but something massive will need to happen in order for our gang to go their separate ways. My final prediction is that maybe an old character will return to save the day as Pamela puts out the call to friends in high places. Whatever happens, I think we're in for one of the best episodes of all time, and I have Monday off work to recover. How about that?
No, that's I actually considered that, because when the episode drops on the Sunday the 20th, that week after that is a short week here for us in the States. I don't know about you guys, but that's the week we celebrate Thanksgiving. So we have most people have at least Thursday off, but a lot of people have Thursday and Friday off, which I do. And so it's like sometimes people will just, stretch it out, use a couple of vacation days, and then next thing you know, you got a whole week off.
There you go.
I've got some vacation days coming. Maybe I need to take that Monday off and sleep in and really think about it.
Watch the episode like 5 times.
I'm going to have to. So thanks for writing in, Bev. We love hearing from you.
It's awesome.
Love that. Love the British perspective.
Yeah. All the feedback was great. All the feedback is amazing. It's just so I'm constantly amazed that, we've somehow, for some reason, people are listening to us and then like writing in and talking to us about it. It's just crazy,
They listen to us
in a good.
They listen to us on purpose.
I know.
It just blows my mind. It blows my mind.
It is.
People.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
It's the craziest part of doing this.
Yeah.
It's literally like, to me, because I would, and Steve can attest, we can sit around and gab about movies and how we felt about a TV show or whatever for hours. We've done it. We've closed restaurants down. We've made them kick us out. Like, this happens. Like, we can do this. But it's almost like we're doing that, and someone is sitting in the booth next to us, just like raptured, listening to every word come out of our mouth.
I know.
And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre that happens, but it's bizarre in such a great way. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
We love it. We love it. All right. So what's coming up? Before we get into the stuff for next week, the documentary is out that we were talking about last week. It's basically like just how they filmed the final season kind of thing. It's a little bit of, a little bit of looking back, not as much looking back as I thought there would be, but there's a little bit of looking back here and there. There's some minor spoilery things, I think. And I'll talk about those next week. I don't want to talk about them now, but if you really, really don't want to be spoiled and you're trying really hard to be radio silence until after next Sunday, it can wait. There's nothing earth shattering in there that you have to watch. Save it. And in fact, maybe save it for the weekend after, when you no longer have any new Walking Dead episodes to watch ever again. Maybe next Sunday after that will be a nice little sort of gift for yourself.
I'm not going to watch it till after the show's over.
Yeah, it was good. There wasn't anything that like spoiled me. There's some sort of minor stuff that made me go, hey, and I can't wait to talk with you about that. And I'll it doesn't give away anything huge, and it won't ruin the documentary for you if I mention it next week when we talk about the finale episode. So, but they're pretty mild, and if you're okay with it, it's a good watch, and there's some good stuff in there, some good interviews with people. I enjoyed it. They did a lot of, just so you know, there's a lot of leaning into the crew. which I thought was great. And you get to meet all of these sort of crew heads that you would have never had an opportunity to see in interviews or specials or anything like that. And I'm so excited that they took the time to talk to the crew, and it's lovely. It's really lovely. It's a nice little sort of cherry on top of the sundae. So watch it when you want to. So there's I don't know if you know this, but this was the penultimate episode, which means the episode before the end. So next week is the ultimate episode. It is the end. So episode 24 is next week.
the end until they do another one, right?
Well, another series, but not this one. This series.
No, I mean, like they're just gonna do like another season, right?
No, they're done. Did you not get the memo?
What?
What?
No, that can't be right. No.
No, it's right. I promise you. It's you can look it up. You can Google it. Ask the Googles. That episode 24 is next week. The title of the episode is Rest in Peace. I did find one description on IMDb, but beware, it felt a little spoilery, so be careful. I'm not going to repeat it here because, again, we're trying so hard to do that radio silence. There are some... My version I saw of episode 23, my version of episode 23 on MC Plus did have next week. It was almost like a commercial for next week, the final episode. You know when it was? It was not during the episode. It was at the end of the documentary. I'm pretty sure that's when it was. That's why you didn't see it.
Yeah.
So the episode didn't have clips at the end, but what the documentary had was like an ad at the end of it. And it showed some clips from the finale episode. Nothing was spoiled for me, but be careful, people, because people are taking those little bits of video and they're slowing them down, and they're blowing the pictures up so you can see, like, is there someone laying down on the ground behind there? Is there someone else over there? Is there like someone holding a gun to something? So if you're trying real hard to avoid, be careful on the social media this week, because people have grabbed those images. There's also some promotional images that were released by AMC. Thanks a lot for nothing, AMC. Just some promotional photos, probably for press to be able to use for prepping their articles to write, because they also weren't sent screeners. Press was not sent screeners. So they've done a good job of tamping everything down. But if you want to have complete spoil-free, be careful of the images online that they're got from the end of the documentary, and be careful of the images from the press images that they sent out. Those are out there. And I sort of like closed my eyes and went la 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 and looked away. And that's what I know. So just be careful of that. I also didn't watch Talking Dead because, again, no spoilers. I'm just going to keep it in the DVR and I'll watch it next week at some point. I would assume they must have had some kind of sneak peek on there, and that's got to be another source for more spoilers from people. So just be careful, people. So next week, everything starts a little early, so about a half an hour before the show. 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern Time. They're gonna have, I swear to God, they're gonna show red carpet arrivals for the reunion special, which is wackadoo to hear. So everything sort of starts 7:30/8:30. Then at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central, the show will air as it normally does. If you hadn't heard through the grapevine, it is a 90-minute show. So they are supersizing the episode, which is fantastic to hear.
It's 90 minutes long, 42 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, I was going to say, with commercials, we'll have an actual hour of the show, probably.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. So, and then when that is over at 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central, an hour and a half later, then it's the post-show special with Chris Hardwick and all the people there, and it's going to be live. So there's that. they're promising quote unquote special appearances and quote unquote special sort of reunions. So I would expect you would see things like, is T-Dog going to be there? Is Tyrese going to be there? Maybe Emily Kinney will show up, Beth. Maybe we'll see some old bad people, like maybe the governor. Maybe we'll see, so the possibilities are endless. There's so many people that they could bring back. I think it'd be great to see John Bernthal and Sarah Wayne Callies after all this. I'd love to see Chandler Riggs and see what he thought of everything.
Laurie Holden.
She'll probably be there. I can't imagine she wouldn't. I know they've got to bring Rooker. I mean, Rooker would love to be there.
Oh, Rooker will be there whether he's invited or not. He'll just be roaming
he'll show up and he'll come
outside.
up on the stage and he'll hug Daryl. He'll hug Norman. But I bet we'll also get Gimple will be there, Angela Kang will be there, I'm sure, Denise Huth, and some of the other producers and people that we don't know. Yeah, Nicotero will be there, I'm sure. But I hate
maybe
to say
Satcher
it, but
Zemas
without any idea one way or the other if we'll see any kind of Rick or any kind of Michonne, having Andy Lincoln or Denai Guerrero show up at this would be a really, really wonderful thing. I'm not saying they are. I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know. I don't want any spoilers of that nature either, because I think that'd be a wonderful surprise. But I also know that, the way life works, sometimes you can't make it. She's got a really big Marvel movie that she's promoting right now. So I would totally understand if Denai wasn't there. I would also understand if Andy wasn't there. Maybe they wouldn't want to take away from the current cast because they know everything would really kind of focus in on them. But I think that if they did show up, it'd be great. I'm just saying. So anyway, so there's that. So that's next week. And we've also mentioned that expect a long podcast, because if you think we were, waxing poetic this week, wait until next week. Also wanted to give people a heads up that because we won't be able to watch the episode until Sunday, we'd like to get at least 2 showings in before we record our episode. So we are planning on recording next week on Tuesday. If there are technical difficulties, because Steve's only method is to watch on the app, because he pulled the cable plug, good job, a while ago. So his only way to watch it would be through the AMC Plus app. I'm very worried that all the people watching on the app on Sunday, there may be some crash issues, which is a possibility. So we're already planning on recording on Tuesday, but if, the possibility exists, we might have to push that a little bit so that we could make sure we want to do 2 things. We want to make sure we get enough viewings of the episode in so we can talk about it with some sort of, some sort of smarts. And also we want to give you guys an opportunity to send in your feedback too. So that's sort of twofold. So the plan right now is to record on Tuesday instead of our usual Monday. But if that changes, we will let you know, and knock wood that everybody's able to watch it the way they want to watch it this coming Sunday. So there's that. All right. So coming up this weekend, important Chicago weekend. We've got the Days of the Dead convention back in Chicago this weekend. And Steve, you're going to be spending that whole weekend there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, starting Friday afternoon all the way through Sunday. Big Friday the 13th, 2009 cast reunion. I think there's like 6 or 7 actors from that movie are going to be there. Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead in the Hellraiser movies, is going to be there. And it's they just added Stephen Dorff. He's going to be there. he was in Blade and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to getting in there and getting a chance to meet some of these folks. And you know, usually they are delightful. The Dolls of Horror, they moderate all the panels, so they're going to be here. So it's going to be fun to catch up with them and see what they're have been about lately. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I'm a little sad that you're not going to be there, but you know, well, I'll get over it.
Yeah. We're still going to hang out on Friday night and go to dinner most likely. So I'll bring a box of tissues for you. How's that?
Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate it. I'll be supporting you during this trying time.
It is. It's very trying.
Yeah, it is trying. And just before we finish up, just a quick plug. I did get a chance to see. We went Sunday and saw Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and it was lovely. I highly recommend it. I thought it was a really great show. So
cool.
Not perfect. I still say the first movie was fantastic, and obviously missing Chadwick Boseman is making it a little bit different. There's a little bit of a different flavor to it, but just roll with it, and it was a lot of fun and sets up some good fun for them to possibly continue further and keep doing some of them. So it was a really, really, really great movie. I enjoyed it a lot. So
great. That's on. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, really, really good. Anything else we want to chat about before we allow people to get away from our voices for the first time in 3 hours?
We're coming up on 3 hours. Let's end this thing quickly.
I know.
The show will be over before we're done.
It is probably true. We're going to go ahead and end this, folks. Thanks again for listening. As always, whether we're a short podcast or a long podcast, we love being here for you. And we look forward to chatting with you each week. And we love hearing back from you. So write in about the finale. Let us know what you thought. We can't wait to talk to you about it. So until next week, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because body shots just don't work. So, Diana, if people want to get in touch with us, how would they go about doing that?
There are some great ways to connect with us online and leave us your comments and feedback. So to send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is at AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. The best way to keep in touch with us is to like our Facebook page. Head to facebook.com/Aim for the Head Podcast to get all of our updates in your feed.
The stupid B-roll can finally be done.